Okay,
He's not on the big.
I started recording. Robert, do you want to kick us off?
All right, let's go. Let's get this started. So, welcome everyone to the 2018 games we played this year and liked event. We decided, while you were off the headphones, Steve, we decided we're going to go in alphabetical order. So, we're going to start with Kate, and then we'll end with Steve Loper. And the way it's going to work is we're each going to spend 5 minutes just talking about some games that didn't make our top 5 or gaming highlights, or it sounds like some of us maybe didn't have a lot of games outside of a top 5. So if there's other things in the gaming world you want to talk about, you can during those few minutes, or you can pass if you don't have anything to say, and then we'll just move down the list, and then we'll go one by one from 5 to 1. So, Cade, I know you're busy eating. Do you have anything to say about your outside of your top 5 games? Anything?
Yeah, I can actually get it all done in one fell swoop because it's pretty sparse this year. Outside of the top 5, I did buy the new RTX 2080 Ti video card, which runs everything under the sun at 4K 60 frames. So you'd think I'd be playing more games, but I just didn't play that many games. I played around with some games and some mods and some emulators when I got the new card to see, but nothing really. It's a combination of I've been really busy this year. I got back into making music, and then the other combination is no games really. I bought a bunch of games, would try them, but nothing really stuck until a week and a half ago, and I played God of War, the new God of War. I borrowed it from a friend, and that took over my life for about 9 days. And that's the only game I beat this year. So just do both in one. I really only have one game, and it's one of the best games I've ever played, ever. And it just happens to be the only game that I beat this year. I don't know if you guys have played it, but it's amazing.
Are we going to get to that in our top 5 rotation then, or?
Either way. That's one I'm excited to play, but I haven't yet.
That's really it.
Cool.
New video card and one game.
Well,
yeah, I'll go into more when I get back to the side of that. Just the new video card and.
Awesome. And you
So
played the
your number one game.
You played the Collectathon game this year, where you bought a bunch of games but didn't play anything.
I did, and I was Steam sharing with Steven earlier, but I reformatted my computer, and I haven't re-Steam shared. But my Steam library is pushing 700 now, and just nothing got me, despite all the ones. I mean, during the spring sale, summer sale, and I just barely bought some more during the winter sale. I did play. Actually, I did play one other game, but I'll wait until I guess my next turn.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Cade.
Yeah. Am I up?
Yeah. Yeah, you're up, Lauren.
I'm kind of in a similar boat. Does it bring my face up when I talk?
Yeah.
Huh. It doesn't on my screen.
Well, it's because you probably clicked on somebody's picture.
Oh.
If you unclick that, it'll rotate to whoever's talking.
Okay. So, basically, I'm kind of in the same boat as Kate. I didn't play a lot of games this year. I was kind of straining to figure out what I did. But I would say probably the biggest gaming event that I was a part of, and Robert did this with me as well, was RLCS, which is the Rocket League Championship Series. I've been following professional Rocket League pretty closely this year, and we actually got to go to Vegas and watch the championships over a weekend. Was that in November, Robert? I think that's when
November.
It was. And that was a really awesome experience. I was nerding out, and I was a big fan of all these random teenage players, and I had a great time. And Robert got to get a little bit hyped about it too, so that was super cool. I'm wearing my Rocket League Championship T-shirt right now. But yeah, that was a blast. So I would say I probably watched more Rocket League this year on YouTube at work than I've played video games all year. It's something I've been really obsessed with. But other than that, just real quick, some of my honorable mentions are games I haven't finished, but I tried. Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, and Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U. Those were all fun games that I played just a little bit. Another one that I played with Robert on the Switch was Snipper Clips. That was enjoyable. Super Mario Odyssey, I would put that higher on my list, but I've only put about a half hour into it, and it was already like better than most of my gaming experiences this year. It was really, really, really good. And then Uncharted 3, I just started it a couple weeks ago after I finished my #1 game, which I won't mention yet, but it's already really good, but I feel like I can't put it in my top 5 because I didn't beat it. And then finally, Human Fall Flat was a pretty fun game I've been playing with my kids. That game is so ridiculous, and it's the kind of game where you just are constantly laughing and having a good time. It's kind of like when we play speedrunners on game night, where we're all just laughing and having a blast. That's how Human Fall Flat is. And I was actually thinking if anyone else gets that game, we should try playing online. It would be really fun. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a rundown of my top 7 or so, or my bottom 7.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
Mhm.
The Rocket League Championships were definitely a highlight of the whole year, gaming and non-gaming. It was such a blast. As far as my gaming honorable mentions go, I beat over 50 games this year, which is quite a few for me, but there's two that are in my top 5 that I just beat in the past couple days. I was trying to beat them by the time we had this gaming discussion, so I'll talk about those later. But outside of those top 5, there's a couple that I just wanted to shout out to. Little Nightmares, that was in my top 10 last year. I played the DLC this year on the PlayStation 4, and it had a really cool twist in it. It's a lot like Inside for those of you who've played Inside, except it's a little more 3D. Inside is 2D and this is 3D, but it's still like in a very confined space, so it's not big worlds. They're still pretty much, you go from left to right, but you can also move up and down. But it's got a really cool atmosphere. Another shout out to Axiom Verge, which is a Metroidvania game made by one guy a few years ago.
Game.
Yeah, it was sweet. Had a real fun time with that. I know Steve Loper played this one, Doki Doki Literature Club, which it's free on Steam. At least it has been, and it was so inventive. They did some really interesting things with it that completely surprised me and made me wonder technically, wow, how did they do that? King Oddball, it was a PlayStation Plus game that if you have PlayStation Plus, you would have gotten it for free at some point. And it's a dumb little like mobile game that they ported to the PS4, and I was so addicted to that game for 2 weeks. I don't think they have a platinum, but I did every single thing you could in it. It's basically a game where you swing a rock and try to knock things down, like the next evolution of Angry Birds, but it was really fun and the music was hilarious. Just a couple more. King's Quest for the PlayStation 4, which is basically a reboot of the old 1980s King's Quest games. They put out a new series, and it seems like almost no one played it, but I loved it. It's an adventure game modernized for the new era, and it's got the guy from Princess Bride, Vicini, who plays one of the main characters, and
Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn, and Christopher Lloyd is like King Graham, who's reminiscing about his past, so he kind of narrates in between each episode. I played Battle Block Theater with my brother Steven, and we had a really fun time. We laughed so hard every night when we played that game together, and it took us forever to finally beat it, but every time we played, it was just nonstop laughing because the narrator in that game is hilarious, and just trying to work together to pass each level is so zany that you just can't help but laughing the whole time. I played Red Dead Redemption this year, the original one, and I was really impressed with the writing of it. And even though it's kind of old by today's standards, it was still played really well and was awesome. The very last honorable mention is Runner 3. And that game is one that my daughter Elena is also obsessed with, and she beat the whole game by herself, and she made a book about it. And we posted it to Twitter, and the game developers commented on it, and they're like, "That's the best fan art we've ever seen," from my 5-year-old. So they all really appreciated her love of the game. I'm just going to show you a tiny bit of that game right now. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's an
You're cutting out for me. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little.
And the screen is frozen now. Your screen.
His internet can't handle playing YouTube and streaming. You might have to pause it, Robert.
It might be the fact that you have 8 YouTube tabs open. That could have hurt your bandwidth a little.
There you go. You're back now.
Well, I have all of my other games queued up. But anyway, so it's back to me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you got to see any of that game, but it's a really fun game. Anyway, that's all from me.
Yeah, I think I played the first one of that game a little bit.
Runner 3 is even better.
That one looks more 3D. It wasn't the first one more like an 8-bit experience?
Yeah, they made the graphics way better.
Cool.
All right, Stephen Gibbons, you're up.
Okay. Well, Robert's honorable mentions is longer than my entire list. So, how do I screen share? Where do I go to do that?
Present now at the bottom right.
Okay, I see it. Because then I get to show you guys my runner-up, all of my other games that are outside of my top 5. I'm going to share my entire screen so that you can see. I don't want to accidentally share. Okay, so you can see what's going on here. Do you guys see these games, this game list? Can you read them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I figured I'll show you guys the list. Do you guys have questions about any of those? Or any of those like, oh, I wondered how that was, or I've never heard of that?
I can't read what the one below Rocket League is.
Oh, this is Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty. And the only reason that's actually that these are ordered according to what I feel like was the best, but the reason that one's there above some of these other ones, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit, was just because I like all the Ratchet and Clank games quite a bit. They're just fun from start to finish. But
how many are there?
I've played 6 of them now, and I still have one more to play in the future trilogy, and then I think, Robert, isn't there 3 more after that?
No, there's one more after that, and then the new reboot one.
Oh, okay.
Is Infamous the one that's made by the Spider-Man developer? Or is that something else?
I'm not sure I can't remember who makes Infamous. Is it Insomniac?
I don't know. I
don't know, but the Infamous games are so good. The Infamous First Light is actually their worst one by far.
Sucker Punch made Infamous.
Oh,
that's right. But it's still so fun. And Infamous is just worth playing.
Insomniac made Ratchet and Clank.
Oh.
What? So Infamous First Light it's worth it for the story aspect of it, but they're really not adding much to Infamous Second Son, which is such a good game. But all those games are so much fun, and you get to kind of choose. It's one of those games where you can choose to be evil or good. But and then Infamous First Light, I don't think it really gives you that choice, but you just get some background story for one of the characters in Infamous Second Son. It's kind of like a prequel. But Toad Treasure Tracker, that one was tough to place there. I liked it quite a bit, and it's a good puzzle game, but at the end of the day, it's I can say as a whole I enjoyed it, but it's not like there was these super, super memorable moments in the middle of it or anything like that. But yeah, definitely Battle Block Theaters was so fun. Robert's right. We had a blast, but we also fought a lot when we played it.
We would get mad at each other.
We'd get frustrated and take it out on one another. We also played Train 3. I think Robert mentioned that, but that was
I didn't mention that one, but that was.
Oh, you didn't mention that one? Well, that was a very short train game. We played the other two together too, but Train 3 was such a gorgeous game. But I think the developers ran out of money, and so it was published as a smaller game, but just really cool aesthetic and really fun to play still. And then these ones down here are all of my like phone games, like not Hue, but Lara Croft Go, All Might Tree, and Skyfish. And Lara Croft Go is actually a really clever puzzle game on the phone. Really fun. I highly recommend it. And then Hue, I played that. It was one of the PlayStation Plus games I got for free. A really fun puzzle game where you use color. You alternate through this color wheel to try to navigate the levels. It's pretty inventive. It kind of, I don't know of other games that are quite like it. So like if you turn something purple, like if you turn the background color purple, for example, all the purple blocks on the screen or walls or anything else will disappear. And then all of the blue ones will appear on the purple background. Or, there's 7 or 8 different colors.
Interesting.
But really cool as well.
I have a question about how is it you only have 1.8 hours in Portal 2?
Because me and Robert I don't know. I beat the original game. Oh no, that's recent. This is recently played. I've only recently put 1.8 hours. I can show you.
No, it's okay.
How many hours I've actually put into games, but it's a little. It's fun to look at. But like, see, my top game played of all time is Borderlands 2.
Wow.
But if you combine Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, that might beat it. Let's see.
He is pretty.
300. Nope, not even close.
That's amazing. That's a lot of time in Borderlands.
I know. I played through. I think I played it a couple of times. It's been so many years since I played it, but that game was so fun, and it is so funny. But anyways, that's off topic because that's not a 2018 game. I was in my recently played tab, so I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. So
cool.
But yeah, so that's my runner-up games. That's actually my entire list, other than my top 5 for the whole year.
Other than cool.
Yeah, I put Rocket League on there. Kind of, I like it. I don't know where to rank it though. It's hard for me to put that in any particular spot. Probably doesn't belong there. It is fun.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Steven. All right, you're up, Steve Loper. We can't hear you.
You're muted. There you
How's
go.
that?
Yep.
So I've got a little presentation. Let me put that up. So I don't quite have 50 games like Robert does,
Only.
but only 23. And I don't know that this actually counts. I don't know if you guys can read these.
I can read them, yeah.
But yeah, I played several that Robert had mentioned and Steven mentioned also. Actually, Doki Doki, Lara Croft Go was pretty fun. As far as mobile games go, I liked Mushroom 11 better. It's a game where you tap and you by tapping you destroy the mushroom that you're playing, but it spawns spores out of itself as soon as you destroy part of it, and that's how you move it along. Anyway, but I just wanted to talk about a couple of ones because I knew I didn't have a ton of time to go over a lot of them, so I just wanted to focus on a few. So I put them all in categories because I thought it would be more fun that way. So your brother Josh let me borrow his PS3 so that I could try some of the old Sony exclusives. And these were 2 of them that really stuck out to me, was The Last of Us, Journey. Both amazing, like, Like The Last of Us was just a great story, and I liked the relationship between the two main characters and the slow build. And my only beef was that I just have a hard time with console shooters because I don't play like I play keyboard and mouse mostly, and so not being able to shoot the zombies because I'm clunky with a joystick took away from my enjoyment of that game particularly.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I have some
top.
things I want to say about that too when it gets to that
Yeah.
point.
And then Journey was awesome. The only thing that was a downer for me was that by the time I was playing it, nobody else was really on, and so I didn't actually get to Journey with anybody else. I never got to experience that mechanic, which was kind of too bad. What were you gonna say, Lauren?
Well, going along with the Journey thing, I didn't realize until the very end that the people who were joining in the game were actual people. I thought they were just NPCs. So that was like a really cool eye opener for me. But I think it helps to play games like Journey when they're free on the PS Plus subscription. And that's when I played it, so there were a lot of people playing.
Yeah, I don't actually own a PlayStation, so
Right.
that was my problem. And then my best co-op of the year is Vermintide 2. This game is so much fun. They took everything that was good about the first one, kept everything that was good about, Left 4 Dead, and just have continued to improve on it. It's deeper. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like the blood and guts are so real. And the thing about it is that with Left 4 Dead 2 and Vermintide, you run through the level so many times and you kind of know where everything's going to spawn for the most part. But they programmed this in a way to randomize it so that you know that you're going to run into a boss at some point, but you don't know exactly when, and you don't know what boss it's going to be. And so every time you play through a level, it actually has a really unique degree of randomization that kind of keeps it fresh. And there are times that your whole party wipes just because you got caught with the rat ogre in the wrong place and you threw everyone off a cliff or whatever. And we've had a couple rounds like that, and it's hard enough that you get to the end of the level and you have a huge sigh of relief that the four of you actually made it. Because there's just so many enemies. You're so squishy, and it was super satisfying.
Cool. We played one version of that, didn't we, together?
The first one, yeah, which is fun. But yeah, the second one really, I mean, honestly, just in every way stepped up everything. Graphics, gameplay, depth of character builds. There's instead of just having one stock character, you can have 3 different character builds that play completely differently. So there's effectively 15 different characters, which is one thing that Left 4 Dead 2 never ever did. It doesn't matter whether you're the girl or the coach or whoever, everybody shoots the same gun,
Right.
But this game is so different. It very much matters who is attacking the boss, who's in front, who's in back. Like, the squad tactics in this are so much more detailed than Left 4 Dead 2 that it's not worth comparing them anymore, in my opinion.
Josh really liked that game a lot. He tried to get us all playing. We played it a few game nights, but none of us really bit. But
Well, we played Vermintide 1 though, Steven, not Vermintide 2.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the sequel to that game we played.
Oh, I thought we.
And I
Vermintide
played the
2.
first one. I played the first one as well. I liked it. But yeah, when this inevitably goes on Humble Bundles monthly for $12, which I'm sure it will, I would recommend you buy it. But this is one of the few games that I actually bought at full price. Well, near full price. I bought it right when it came out. I really liked it a lot. My scariest game of the year was Doki Doki Literature Club. Who has anyone here besides Robert played this?
No, but he told me all about it.
He ruined it for you?
No, I don't know if it's possible to totally
You
ruin
said.
it, but
Wait, let me get. Did you say scariest game?
Literally the scariest game I've played this
Okay,
year.
just checking. I'm looking at your.
well, isn't that
I
part
know,
of it?
I know.
It's supposed to be
Looks
misleading, right?
TV.
That's what I thought, but it wrecked me mentally. Like had a hard time sleeping at times playing this game. You really do just have to play it blind to appreciate it. Because like after the first hour, I was like, okay, this is a boring game, but it's cute. I like the relationships and the jokes, but I thought this was supposed to be scary. And then about an hour and a half in, I was like, I can't believe what just happened. I need to check on my family to make sure that everyone that knows that I love them and that nobody wants to do anything drastic. And then 2 hours in, I'm thinking, what should I? Oh wait, I better not write this down on any electronics. I need to shut off all the electronics in my house. And then a week later, the theme song was playing in my head and would just make me shudder. Like, it's an experience. It's a video game experience that every gamer should have. Like,
What genre would you put it into?
psychological
dating sim.
horror. It's a dating sim. It is. Oh my gosh, Lauren, you just have to play it. I'm telling you. People told me the same thing. They're like, I can't tell you too much about this. You just have to play it. And seriously, you do. You have to play it. Keep playing it, and just play it for what.
Is it a visual novel
Yeah.
type game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the gameplay style. Yes.
I have never tried one of those games because they just haven't appealed to me. But you're
No, they're
definitely
absolutely
making a strong
ridiculous.
case.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
I'm the
ridiculous.
same way
They're-
The imagery you chose is not making a strong
And this
case.
one is
But
short,
your
by the way.
descriptions are
I know. And you have to appreciate the imagery of this to understand why it's scary.
Yeah,
Like-
you have to know where it's coming from, because if you know anything about visual novels, is a lot of them are like this, like they're this cute anime type of game, and this game takes that trope and twists it, and so you go
Flips
in
it on its head.
thing.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
a commentary
Without
on the
saying too much
genre.
about it, like genuinely, it is an hour of just playing a dating simulator, and but stick it out, because after the first hour of playing this, I was like, my nephews are punking me. I know this. I know they're messing with me. And then I realized that no, I was absolutely wrong. This was one of the most impactful video game experiences, and I will, like, my little girls watch a Netflix thing called Doki Doki something else, and whenever they watch it and they say Doki Doki, I like look behind me. Anyway, check it out.
Doki Doki is the Japanese term for the sound your heart makes, like pitter patter.
Right. My biggest disappointment of the year was LA Noire, with a close follow-up of Max Payne. So just kind of Rockstar, I guess, was my disappointment of the year. These were two games that I was really looking forward to. LA Noire is by far one of the most theatrical games I've ever played, but as you can see from this mashup of clips, like,
Super buggy.
there were physics problems and the controls were clunky. Like, it turned it in, it had components of like being a running puzzle and a cover shooter, and it tried to be a shooter, but it was also trying to be a theatrical movie, but it was also trying to be a police puzzle game. And unfortunately, in trying to be all these different things, it didn't really succeed in being good at hardly any of them, except the movie part of it. I think that this would be interesting to remaster or use the same technology where they use the facial capture tech that they used to do it like in a different setting, like Chicago or something. Like if they did a Untouchables, Chicago Mafia, something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like a Prohibition era game like this, I think could be really amazing, but it ended up just kind of being sad. So, but if you liked Mad Men, you'll recognize like half the cast of this game.
Yeah.
I think they basically just cast everybody from Mad Men, and anyway. So that is my best of the rest.
Awesome.
Cool.
Just in time, Reagan. Do you want to go over your top five or your bottom five, just kind of, or honorable mentions before we get into our top five one at a time?
No, that's okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You got the pro radio mic. You're coming in loud and clear.
So just to summarize,
Honorable mentions.
just to summarize, Reagan, Doki Doki Literature Club is a game you should play. That's what we got out of that.
Did
And
many people say that already? Or just you?
Two
Steve,
people.
Steve
Me and
Loper-
Robert, yeah.
Loper and I both played that game this year, and it's one you need to
I think it-
experience.
And I think it has overwhelmingly positive ratings on Steam.
I've got it.
Also, Reagan, I don't know if you knew, but Lauren and I went to the Rocket League Championships in Las Vegas, World Championships this year, and so that was like kind of a highlight of our.
Wait, you guys
gaming
went
year.
and played, or just you? Went
No, we went to watch the pros, the real
Oh,
players,
That is pretty cool.
and it was really fun. Like esports is something I never thought I'd enjoy, but that was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had.
It was
Sure.
awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just looked it up. 96% positive ratings on
What's it
Steam.
called?
Doki Doki Literature Club.
But you have to get past the first hour because it's
You also
not
have to
what
get
it's
past
not
that
what you
terrible name.
think it is.
Well, that's kind of the point of the game is you think it's going to be one thing and it kind of something you don't expect.
That's what makes it so scary. Ultimately, is that it kind of
It's scary.
nurtures you and it tells you that it's
Yeah,
harmless.
exactly.
It's what?
It's a
No.
scary game. I would not. You guys,
It's very scary.
It's sort of like a Trojan horse.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Tell me no more. Say no more.
Yeah, just
the
play
less
it.
I know, the better, right?
Just play
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
It's maybe 2 or 2.5 hours long. Maybe.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. Well, yeah, Reagan, if you think of some games that you want to talk about that are like outside of your top 5 at the end, you can sum up some more at the end too. But we'll go on to Cade. So, do you have 5 games to talk about, Cade, or do you want to wait until the top 3, or I don't know what your list looks like?
He's got one. He's going to wait till the top one.
That's what I thought.
I really
Can't hear
I
you
can't
too well.
hear you.
Oh, wait. I think he said he has top 2.
Your audio's
Listen.
cutting out,
we
Cade.
have just 2
Oh.
games. So number 2
Yeah, you might have to type those in, buddy.
and number 1. I'll wait for.
We didn't catch any of that. Do you want to type it in the
Can you
chat?
hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Check.
Now it's not better.
We're gonna play this Verizon game. There you go.
Says-
He has 2 games.
He says
Okay.
he can wait.
We'll wait till we get to number 2 then. Okay, so after Cade,
I think it was me. Was it me?
Lauren.
Am I?
Lord.
So I'm doing my
Number
number 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a game I was very much looking forward to. I think just the demo of this game last year made it into my top 5. This was a game for VR called Budget Cuts, and I was very excited about it. The demo was super promising. I loved the demo so much, I just couldn't wait for this game. And they kept delaying it, which in my mind meant it was just, they were perfecting it. It was just going to get better and better and better. And to be honest, this would be lower on my list. I mean, like a worse number. But I didn't feel like I could put it ahead of a bunch of games I didn't actually finish. But anyway, it was very disappointing for me. I still think it's a cool idea, but I feel like all the great parts of the demo that they used weren't really properly implemented into the full game. And it was just kind of a disappointment. I have yet to totally finish it, but I got far enough into it that I was like, I'm kind of bored with this. I don't really want to move forward too much.
Like a Michael Bay film compared with the trailer.
Yeah, something like that, which is so disappointing. I'll still replay the demo because it's almost like a perfect 15-minute experience as opposed to dragging that same 15-minute experience out over hours. Maybe the game gets better as you move through deeper into the game, but I just felt like it got more tedious, which is unfortunate. So anyway, that was my number 5, Budget Cuts. It's a VR experience. I didn't play a lot of VR stuff this year, but that's one that I was most disappointed with. So
Sorry to hear that.
me too. I just feel like VR, the VR is weird right now because it's such an amazing platform, and yet there's just no really great games that are pulling me in to want to play it a lot. It's really unfortunate.
It's crazy 'cause I was so interested in VR. We used to talk about it so much and how excited we were, and I just haven't even. It's like I don't even care anymore for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of in some ways turned into a gimmick the way things like the Kinect did and other things, you know. So I hope that that's not the case. I still think there are some big games coming which will make a big difference. Supposedly Valve is working on 3 full-length VR games, so and they're also secretly working on better hardware, so we'll see.
One of the biggest barriers for me to VR is the fact that it seems like it just takes too long to set up. Like every time you want to play it, you've got to get situated. You got to make sure your little sensors are working. You got to make sure, if especially if you're using the, Valve's VR.
Yeah,
tech.
and
But
going along with that, it's for me, it's like, oh, I got to clean up my office again. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't play it enough that I have a clean space. You know.
right, every time you play, you've got to map out your area, stuff like that. So for me, when I'm wanting to game, I'm usually hopping on for like a half an hour, unless it's late at night. But just like adding that extra 20 minutes to try to get things situated, it's like I'd rather just play a game that's still really fun.
Right.
But one day I think they'll simplify it. Maybe you'll have permanent fixtures in your house or a room dedicated to VR, and you'll walk in and just put on a headset and pick up a controller, and you're ready to go. But I don't know.
I still think augmented reality is going to become much bigger than VR, just because it's more social. You know.
Well, and VR has an amazing space to be available. Like I did an experience at the Void. Has anyone done any of that?
Yeah,
I
that was awesome.
wanted to.
So my brother-in-law works at the Void, and he let us come and do the Wreck-It Ralph experience for free. And it's incredible because you move from room to room to room, and you have a gun in your hand, and you're shooting stuff actively. Like it says, here's a gun, grab it, and you lean forward, and there's a physical gun there that you actually grab, and you can see your hands. And when you do this, it registers your avatar's fingers, and it can actually do that. And that's the same kind of thing. There's VR like arcades and stuff that do the same kind of thing.
Yeah, we did the Ghostbuster one, and it was a lot of fun at the Void.
Cool.
I wish there was more of that happening. There's nothing like that out here.
They're actually
Yeah, no,
opening.
you gotta go to Vegas.
Yeah, they are opening a VR arcade in my neighborhood. Well, in my city.
There's a VR
coming up.
arcade at the University Mall that my nephews work at too, called VR Junkies.
Yeah. I hope it becomes bigger. For me right now, I spend a lot on my hardware, so I can't justify going out and doing that somewhere else. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I am hopeful that it becomes more mainstream and cheaper. Supposedly they're working on cheaper versions that have similar hardware to what we have now, so it'll happen.
I have no doubt.
I think so too.
Just like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years away.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I feel like I was a little too negative about budget cuts. It's still getting pretty great reviews on Steam. It just wasn't what I was hoping for. So.
All right, Reagan, you have a number 5?
I actually only have 3 games, so you guys can move ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, then it's to me, and my number 5 was a game called Alice Madness Returns, which came out.
American McGee.
Yeah. You ever played any of those games, Steve?
I played the first one. Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, the first one is really messed up, but the second one is even more messed up, which is why it's great. I'll try and just present a minute, not a minute, but like 30 seconds of it again. Let's see.
So while he's working on that, the background is like Alice in Wonderland, Insane Asylum.
It kind of has a
They were quite
Psychonauts
old.
feeling to it by the
Out a
graphical
long
style.
time ago, weren't they?
Yeah.
Can you guys see that on my screen?
Yeah, I can,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can see it.
So that cat is the Cheshire Cat, and you can see so they take the world of Alice and they make it very gothic and twisted, and so everything is like dark and disturbing, and it's a very heavy game as far as like talking about how Alice was abused as a child and she's psychologically disturbed, and so now she's escaped into Wonderland, and you don't know what's real and what's not real. But the style of it is just so crazy, and it's basically a 3D platformer. But the style is what I love about it. It's just so inventive, and there's so many different kinds of levels, and the weapons are cool that you use. Like one of the coolest weapons is a hobby horse, like the kind of horse that you would ride around on as a kid, but you use it to beat up enemies. And anyway, it's got a really cool style, and I dug it. Love that game.
It gives me kind of a Psychonauts feel from the stuff you showed.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
there is
darker
kind of that
version
same.
of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's kind of like a darker version of Psychonauts. That's a good.
It reminds me of the video game version of the movie Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
You guys ever see that movie?
Yeah, almost like a steampunky, gothic feeling or something.
Yeah. So he wanted to do a third one. I think he's still trying to, but if he does, that's a for sure purchase for me because I love those games. But we'll see if he gets funding enough to do it again.
Just one guy that made it.
Well, no, it's the title of the game is American McGee's Alice. Like he's the main creator, but he used the team to do it. But the game carries his name as part of the title because he's like the director, auteur. Yeah. All right. Who's after me? Stephen Gibbons.
So I thought this might be the first year I didn't stick a game like this on my top 5, but I actually was debating between putting my number 6, which was Ratchet and Clank: A Cracked Time, because that Ratchet and Clank was those games are really fun, but that one was by far my favorite. It combined everything that I loved from all the other games, and just they made, to me at least up till this point in the series, they delivered a perfect game as far as that goes. But my number 5, and I'll tell you why I put it there, is Dark Souls Remastered.
Figured.
I have my complaints about why it's not number. There's always been, whenever a game like that has come out, we've always put it number 1. It's at number 5 because it has some flaws that I didn't, or some things about it that disappointed me. But on that same note, I played through it like religiously. I did what I did before, where I just beat the bosses. We jumped together, we played together, Lauren, once in a while, but ultimately you stopped playing and I just kept playing through. But it was just satisfying to play that game again and just own it. Like, it was so different than my first experience, but it was still really fun to just crush those bosses that gave me so much trouble years and years ago. And especially Gwyn. Oh, first try, and I killed him, and it was just the most satisfying. Yeah, it was not the most satisfying gaming experience this year, but it was really high on my list. Just really fun to own that boss.
That again.
What's that?
I was fighting Ornstein.
And Smog.
You know what? It wasn't that bad. I think I did die a couple of times on that. There was only 2 bosses that gave me trouble. Ornstein and Smog, and then what's the Tartarus Beast? For some reason.
The Tartarus Demon is the worst.
That's the one. He was so easy for me. When I played him before, I beat him, and I didn't understand what the problem was. But this time, I just struggled.
Easy for me too.
Wait, Taurus or Capra?
You're talking Capra, the one with the dogs,
Capra
right?
Demon, the one down below. The
Capra with the dogs?
Yeah.
That's the one I meant. Yes.
Yeah, that's the worst. Taurus is pretty easy.
I don't know what I did right the first time I played that game, but I remember not having any trouble with it. And later, as I was, seeing online, like people were like, "Oh man, that this is how you beat him," and I hadn't had any trouble. But the second time, because I hadn't trained well enough, I guess years ago,
I cheated and threw dung pies over the wall the first time, so he was pretty easy for me.
That was your tactic. I didn't know any of that.
A lot of those things too depend on when you arrive at those bosses, because that's one of those bosses that you can do earlier or later in the game. And when you arrive at him and you're not leveled up enough, he is much more difficult. But if you're just a little more leveled, he's like a piece of cake. I was going to say, Dark Souls Remastered is on my list as well. But the DLC bosses still give me trouble more than anything.
That was also really fun, was playing, what's his face, that you helped me beat the first time I played
Artorias?
the DLC.
Artorias, yeah.
Yeah, like, I struggled with him. So he was one of the only Dark Souls, or I guess, or Dark Souls or Bloodborne bosses that I never beat solo, and so I was determined to do it this time. And it was surprisingly easy compared to when I played it before, and that was also extremely satisfying. Just to beat that boss that gave you so much trouble years ago. That was really fun, and that's why I moved it up my list so far. Still didn't make my very best game, but
I've yet to play it. I need to play it.
That's a good one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my thoughts too when it comes time, but
well, I'll
Me
touch
too.
on my complaints when you guys talk about it. The reasons I was disappointed in that game, but
yeah.
I'll save that. Anyways,
All right, Stephen Loper.
All right, so I've got my number 5 was a game that had been recommended to me by several people, and it was Spec Ops: The Line. And on a funny note, my average year of my top 5 was 2013, which kind of fits with a XKCD comic. I don't know if you guys can see that, if that comes across, but
See it?
yeah.
it says I get games on a 5-year lag. That way I never have to buy a high-end system, but I get the same steadily advancing gaming experience as people who do, and at a fraction of the price, and there's no downsides. And then in early 2013 he says, guys, the cake is a lie, which kind of fits with what I've got going on here. And Spec Ops: The Line is certainly no exception, as it came out in 2012. But I had this recommended to me by several people because I'm pretty dovish on war in general, and so everyone was like, "Oh, you should like this game." But I hated this game. I found it disgusting and appalling and violent and disturbing, which is why I can definitely recommend this to everybody. Because of what the story means. It's a really well written story with a BioShock level twist in it, and it asks really deep questions about reality and war, especially who are the good guys and who are the bad guys, and what are their names, and do they have families, and is there ever a chance in war to just say stop, or do you have to just see it through because, hey, I'm in war? And if there's a part of you that feels like we just have to bomb the crap out of those people, if you think that our military needs to be more involved in situations outside of American soil, this game actually might make you think otherwise, because it really, more than any other game, had been, it's a fun cover shooter, like technically speaking. It's an entertaining military game. There's great cutscenes and acting and involvement, but it's it makes war feel as heavy as war is supposed to be. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's great.
I played that last year, and I echo the sentiments you have. I think it was based on, or at least inspired by Heart of Darkness. But yeah, it's good. It's a good game.
Yeah, well, as it wasn't in Heart of Darkness, but it was in Apocalypse Now, which was based on Heart of Darkness, right?
Right.
War is hell, and they nailed that perfectly. It's still playable. It's a little janky as a cover shooter.
But I bet it's still cheap. I bet you can get it on Steam for pretty cheap.
Right
Yeah.
now, I'm sure.
Reagan, you're just a little bit quiet for me. I don't know if everybody else is experiencing
Same.
that. But
I think if you just get close to your mic, it's fine.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sultry.
Yeah, we love to hear that voice. All
Awesome.
right.
So, do we go back to me, or do we want to let Cade talk? Did he say
well,
only had
I-
two?
Back
I
to you.
think we look made at the end because that's our
Yeah,
plan. That,
Yeah,
All right.
we'll let them do. So yeah, back to you, Lauren.
So, again, I'm kind of cheating here. I did not beat this game. but we just got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, and my wife has been she gets sick playing 3D games, so she's been wanting to get a lot of different platformers. And I mean, literally, Christmas was what, yesterday? So
2 days.
yeah, 2 days.
But
yeah.
she opened it early.
She opened it early. She's been playing the Switch for about 3 weeks, but I played it for my first time yesterday, and we got this game called N++, which was
Oh, I've heard of this
it was
game.
requested by my son. He saw it on some kid's YouTube channel, and my wife and I have been playing it together, and it is a blast. When I was a kid, I used to draw like these big like labyrinth maze type things for stick figures to run through, and then I'd have them like falling in pits. And did you ever do that as kids? I used to love doing that. Anyway, it's sort of like drawing an entire level of a game on a piece of paper, and then drawing the stick figure going through these different things, swinging on ropes. That's essentially what this game is. It's your little stick figures, and you're very tiny. You're seriously maybe only like 10 pixels high or less, and you're just the whole level is splayed out in front of you, and you basically can see the whole level, and you just have to figure out how to navigate it, and there are all these things that try to kill you, and you just have to get to the door on the other side, basically. And it's a blast. And then you can play 2-player. It's kind of like Super Meat Boy. It's kind of like Speed Runners, except it's not getting narrower and narrower and closing in. You just see the whole thing wide the entire time. Anyway, it's been a blast, and I think you can play up to 4 players. We've only got 2 Switch controllers so far, but. And then another one that's honorable mention in that same category, I just bought that game today, and I maybe put 2 hours into it, is the new Spider-Man game. And holy cow, I already know this is going to be in my top 2 next year. So I won't say any more about it, but I played it for about 2 hours today, and it is
Somebody's lending me that game
incredible.
on Sunday.
Someone is? It's
Nice.
yeah.
So as far as N++ goes, I've never played that one, but I played N and N+.
Oh,
And those games are fun, but it wasn't constructed like a level. Like N+, you would be like a square, the whole level is contained in the whole screen, and you would hop around to try to collect all of the little
yeah, that's what I
dots.
meant. What did I not explain that?
Is this constructed like a level though, where you go from start to finish, or do you?
No.
try to
It's
collect all the-
you see the entire level wide the entire
Okay.
time, and you're just this little guy running through it.
Okay, so you can go up and down and right and left.
Right,
and
you can jump off
you move
walls,
around,
and it's
there's
really
missiles, lasers.
momentum based. Like if you hit a wall just right, you get like an extra boost. But if you don't, you fall too far and die. You die a
Right.
lot.
It is, yes, I remember that. I never beat that game. I don't know that. I just remember there was a lot of levels, and they got really, really hard. But
Yeah, we're only
Definitely remember it was
maybe an
years ago
hour
I played
into it, and it's pretty tough. But I like it. That's like Super Meat Boy in that way. You kind of have to get it perfect. Anyway.
good game.
Cool.
At least N+ was. I don't know what N++ has that N+ didn't. But
It's probably the same, just more levels.
Cool. All right. Me? No, Reagan? Oh, no, you got 3, so I guess it's me for number 4. My number 4 is Dragon Age Origins. I think Cade had Dragon Age Inquisition on his list a couple years ago, so I assume he's played the original one, Origins. The reason this is so high on my list is because it was very well put together, but it was the final boss battle that really made it special. Because in Dark Souls, you have these epic boss battles where it's just you and the boss, and even when you're co-oping, it's just you and the friend trying to take down this gigantic boss. What made this boss battle unique is there's a war going on around you that you also have to deal with in addition to the boss. So you play a team, your whole party is with you. There's like 4 or 5 people with you that are on your team, and you can pause the game and you can tell individual members of your party to attack certain people or do certain things. And so what you have to do during this epic boss battle is you're trying to take down the main boss, the dragon, but meanwhile the enemies are coming around you at all sides, and you have to sort of like navigate between trying to take down the boss and trying to take down the enemies that are trying to kill all your friends. And you also, in addition to the friends that you control, you also have an army that's trying to support you. And so you're trying to help the army, you're trying to take down the boss, and it was so epic and fun. And I usually hate boss battles, so for that boss battle to like be so fun to me was really incredible.
You also
that's
aren't
what
big
it's
on
up for.
RPGs. It seems like you've said before that you're not big on those. So that's.
I mean, yeah, like my game of choice. I love 3D platformers more than anything, probably, and so RPGs have to be really good for them to grab my attention. But yeah, that one was a fun one.
I played that about half of it years ago, but I never did finish. Maybe you've been inspired me to go back.
It's
Try it
funny. I loaded that up and started to play it as well, and I think I only got about an hour into it. Just thought I'm not liking this style. Like I wasn't liking the pause combat isometric layout for whatever reason. I didn't like the mix between. It was like half Diablo, half XCOM, and it was kind of odd.
Yeah,
They're
not
hating
for
on your
everyone,
game.
but it is fun. I
But
liked it.
maybe I should give it another chance as well because I've heard so many good things about it.
What did you say, Reagan? I didn't hear you.
I said they're hating on your game, Robert.
Cade, what do you got to say about it? You played it, right?
Is he still awake?
A long time ago. He's
You
on
might have to
mute.
type it in.
His phone's gonna die.
Tell us
Texted
your
in.
thoughts in chat, Cade. All right. Stephen Gibbons.
Okay, so on a completely different note, my number 4 is Yoshi's Woolly World. And that's an unusual one to stick so far. I like the Yoshi games a lot. I love platformers like Robert does. And I've liked the Yoshi games, but this one was, I felt like Yoshi, this is the kind of game that he's belonged in. Like, he should have always been a ball of yarn. But in addition to that, something that also boosted this game way up for me was the music. The music in Yoshi's Woolly World combined with just that yarn aesthetic was just, I don't know, it created such a fun game. And playing with my kid as well also added to that. But just from start to finish, I just enjoyed every aspect of that game. Just really, really fun for me to play.
Did you play Kirby's Epic Yarn?
No.
You know, I've
I've
never
played
played a
Kirby.
Kirby game, but I played Kirby's Epic Yarn a while back, and I thought it was the most fun. Like, I love the design, I love the yarn concept, and apparently actual Kirby games aren't very much like it. We bought that newer Kirby game for the Switch, and it's very different than what I was expecting. But man, there's something about that yarn aesthetic that's just really pleasing.
My kids play Kirby games, but I've never played any of them. But I have heard that Epic Yarn is good.
I just wonder if that Yoshi game is similar in style.
Robert may know. He's played lots of games. You
Well-
played Epic Yarn, Robert?
Yeah, the main difference, they do have the same aesthetic, and Yoshi's Woolly World was definitely brought about because of Kirby's Epic Yarn. The main difference between the two is Kirby's Epic Yarn is meant to be easy and lighthearted, whereas Yoshi's Woolly World is very difficult.
Oh,
It's a hard.
it's more like a Donkey Kong Country kind of a thing or something.
Yeah, most of the Yoshi games are on the more difficult
What
side.
what platform is that?
It's on the Wii U only, and the 3DS now. Actually, you can get it on the 3DS, but
The thing about Yoshi's Woolly World too is it can be as difficult as you want. Like you can beat my son can beat that game, but if you want to try to collect everything in every level, and to do the extra like the special levels that are super super hard, then it becomes an extremely difficult game. But it's accessible by anybody. Anybody can play that game.
whereas in Kirby's Epic Yarn, I don't think it's possible to die. It's just like
Yeah, I don't even remember it, to be honest. I just remember it being a fun experience. I don't remember it being difficult at all. That sounds fun.
It was a good game. Robert let me borrow it actually.
yeah. You can borrow it, Lauren, from Steven if you want.
I still have it.
Oh, I think you do.
I do. I bet.
Maybe.
I want to borrow
I've been
Super
done with it
Mario
for ages.
Odyssey. That's what I want to borrow.
I've got that.
Yeah, you can borrow that.
Awesome.
Oh, from anyone apparently. All right, Stephen Loper.
Gibbons.
He just
Stephen
went.
Gibbons.
No,
He just went.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn.
Oh, he just went. Oh, yeah. Oh, good call. Yoshi's Woolly World. All right, so I've got number 4. Oh, spoilers. Um,
Oh, I've heard good things about this one.
Number 4. This game was so good. So I really liked The Walking Dead. Telltale did. This one was better. This was. If you haven't played any Telltale games, this might not be the first one to play because it may possibly spoil it. Any of the other ones that maybe aren't as good. But I never really liked the Choose Your Own Adventure books as a kid because I felt like there was a right, proper, good ending, and I just didn't know which page to turn to get that one. It always felt like there were just 39 ways to die, only one way to get out of the center of the earth or from the haunted farmhouse or whatever, you know. But Telltale does a really good job, and especially in this one, of creating multiple options that aren't necessarily wrong or bad, they're just different. And I thought this was especially true in this game. I was curious about what might have happened if I had done things differently, but unlike a lot of the other games, I wasn't regretting my decisions. It was just, I knew that it would go a different way, but like I didn't feel bad about what I did. I just felt more like, well, that's what I picked, and I'm gonna live with it. But the world was so rich, and I wanted to I wanted to explore more. I was so surprised that there were certain things that they had kind of set up that never explored. But I think what they were trying to do is because they were hoping for a second game. And so my best gauge for whether this belonged in the top 5 was how sad I was that there will never ever be a second game because Telltale folded this year.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna,
then
I was
they
gonna
even
ask
announced-
about that.
They announced a second game before
They had
folded
announced a
it,
second game,
sadly.
right? It was being
Yeah.
developed, and now there will never be another one. So if this gets published on YouTube and any developers for some reason happen upon this YouTube video, this is my plea. Anyone that is out there that's buying intellectual properties, Windows, or well, not EA, but you know, anyone but EA. EA, don't listen, but you know, Windows just bought a bunch of intellectual property this year. Buy Telltale or Epic Games. You know, you have all this money sitting around from your Fortnite success. Buy Telltale and make this game. Did you hear, Robert, what the other game they were in development was?
I've forgotten
Game of
what.
Thrones or
They
something.
were going to make a Stranger Things game,
Oh, right.
which I think would have been awesome as well. So
I
Anyway,
think Netflix is
if
still
anyone's
going to-
listening,
anyway,
if
yeah.
anyone's listening and they want more intellectual property, buy Telltale games.
So why
And
did
make this
Telltale
game.
fold? Because I thought they were doing very well.
Yeah, it seemed like they were so popular. I was surprised to hear they went
That
back.
was their management overextended
Just
and
bad.
Yeah.
committed to way too many
decisions.
projects without the funding, and then they buckled at the last second.
And
Mm.
and I was thinking about this. I don't know whether this is true or not, but I suspect that Telltale has a unique problem that a lot of other developers don't have with other games, which is that they ultimately don't actually own their intellectual properties. That they have to get that licensed from somebody else, and so
Oh.
they have to pay a royalty to whoever, whether it's HBO for Game of Thrones or AMC for The Walking Dead, or you know, the creator of this comic book, because this was a comic book. This wasn't even them. Like, this is a comic book called Fables. All these characters are borrowed from somewhere, Back to the Future, from Universal Studios, etc. The only thing they ever did, I think, that was their own intellectual property was Puzzle Agent, which wasn't very successful or popular or whatever. But anyway, The Wolf Among Us
What
is
about The Wolf Among Us? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
So The
that's
Wolf
also
Among Us-
comic book.
I thought that was original.
very
IP.
much. No, it's a comic book called Fables.
Hmm.
So anyway, very much worth your. You know, it shows up on the Steam sale and it's $5. It's really, really good.
The other thing
And again-
about it, real quickly, is the music
Yeah.
is awesome for that game. They have some great music, and in fact, if any of you listen to podcasts, there's one called Sound of Play, which is video game music, and every week they do a selection of video games, and they present pieces from them. And I actually submitted the Wolf Among Us opening theme and menu theme as a submission, and they played it last week.
Cool.
The Wolf Among Us is part of their program. So anyway, it's got great music
Cool
too. To boot.
podcast.
Yeah, great music, great art, very, very well voice acted, really well written, has a very lovable protagonist, which is a hard thing in a lot of Telltale games. They kind of make you hate your character so that sometimes you don't make good choices, but this was kind of a guy you wanted to like.
Can I
So
just be the Telltale hater here?
yeah, absolutely.
I tried to play The Walking Dead 3 times on 3 different systems, and I just could not do it. I was like, maybe it's I tried it on Xbox, PC, and then even on iPad. I'm like, maybe this will be a great iPad game. I'll lay down in the bed. I don't know what it is. I know people love those games, but not me. Can't get into it.
I never finished the first Walking Dead episode for the same reason. Like, I play games to play games.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I mean?
exactly.
And that being
Don't play
said,
Doki
I
Doki
was
ever again.
impressed. I was impressed by the story and the style and everything, but it just I felt like I'd rather do other things.
Reagan, Doki
Yeah.
Doki is like a visual novel. You don't love that kind of game. You're looking to play a game, then those kind of games, that's going to turn you right off. Because it's
I could do it. Depends. Like I feel like you have to get that balance just right. And for me, those games were too much in the middle. I could do a visual comic where it almost feels more like a media experience,
yeah.
or there's a game. But yeah, somewhere there's something about that game was just right in this weird period or weird.
Well,
era.
and-
I didn't like it.
I agree with you. I think The Walking Dead is not one of their stronger games. The thing that I noticed about The Wolf Among Us was it had a little more of the cutscene things. You know what I mean? Like what do they call them? Where you have to respond, you have to push the buttons in the order.
Quick time events.
Quick time events.
QuickTime events, yeah. Thank you. It had more QuickTime events, I thought, than The Walking Dead did, and they made more sense. And I think Wolf Among Us also had more of an adventure play style, like a LucasArts type game. Walk around the room, talk to people, interact with things,
Hmm.
and I don't know, it seemed to make more sense. I liked the Walking Dead games, but I got bored of them after a while too because it just felt like it wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So
sure they
with you,
perfected
Reagan.
their craft.
I don't know that it's a Telltale problem. I think it's a Walking Dead game problem.
Maybe.
That might be true because I think I made it to that storeroom every time.
Yeah.
At the grocery store.
Yeah, that was where I.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
part drags
Yeah.
so bad because it's like you can't talk to me until you find batteries. And
Right.
it's like I don't know where the batteries are.
You know, I had Uncharted 3 on my list earlier up, and I actually kind of feel that way about the Uncharted games. I feel like sometimes they can't decide if they're movies or games, and and I know there's a lot of gameplay in those games, but sometimes the choice of where they put the camera and how you have to run is so awkward that it feels. Anyway, I almost feel like Uncharted is just a slightly more advanced version of one of those Walking Dead games in some ways.
I played a little bit of Uncharted 3 with this PlayStation 3, and I didn't get very far into it either because same kind of problem.
Yeah. But there's a game that Naughty Dog made that I will be talking about later that managed to work for me. So, so I think we're at top 3 now. Maybe we should. Reagan, you said you have 3, right? Maybe we should let you start at number 3.
Yeah, I do, but I think I might be reaching. I think my third one I may have said in last year's podcast, but I'm not sure. It would have been close because I didn't get this until Christmas last year, and so I don't know. And it's actually a good and bad thing. It's Resident Evil VR. I don't remember. Did I talk about that last year?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I think
Oh,
you brought
you
it up briefly, but not in detail.
Yeah.
I think it might have been an honorable mention because I just got in the game. And so the thing about it is that I actually sold the PlayStation VR like within 2 months because was so disappointing in a certain way. Like it just wasn't ready. It's not ready. The graphics aren't good enough, and it can't keep up. It's a little bit laggy. Certain games can work, but I still think that Resident Evil VR, which I didn't beat, I had to say that. But what it did for me is like I didn't beat it because it was just too. It was almost too intense, and I love scary games, and I feel like, but I couldn't stay in it long enough because I would start getting headaches. So I was like, I really wanted to keep playing it, but something about the technology was letting me down. And I still feel like Resident Evil VR would freak me out so much that even if it wasn't giving me a headache at first, I would have to just say, okay, I'm done for the night. I had to put this away. My heart was pounding so much just because to have a survival horror game in VR was really awesome. So I do look forward to the day when they figure VR out, it's all perfect, and then we can have a survival horror game like that. That's all I have to say about it.
Nice. Lauren, you want to go? Lauren's gone. He's down for the count.
He's muted.
We'll get him back.
Okay,
Maybe Robert, you go ahead. Lauren will pop back in.
my number 3 is this game that I will present.
Oh, nice.
Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I was always interested in these games when they were on the old PlayStation systems, but I never actually played them. And so when I heard about this remaster coming out, I was really excited and pre-ordered it with Steven. We're sharing it, so he's going to get it after I'm done. And I am done. I finished it today. I platinumed all 3 games, and I did the final platinum today. And it's exactly what you expect it to be. It's a very straightforward 3D platformer, but it's really artistic and creative and fun, and just had a blast playing it, start to finish. So that's my number 3. Spyro Reignited.
I never heard about
Did you say
Spyro in
stop to
ages.
finish?
Start to finish.
Oh,
I played the first 2 of those Spyro. I think they were on my top 10 the year. I think Spyro 2 made it to my top 10 actually one year, and that was the old version, the non-remastered version. They were so fun. So I'm looking forward to getting those tomorrow. I never played Spyro 3, but
I think
maybe not.
Copeland did the music for the first one. If that means anything.
Who did?
The drummer for the Police.
Oh. That's cool. I did know it was someone famous. They talk about the music very highly, and I think the music was very good. Lauren, is Lauren gone?
Gone.
Did he send any kind of message or anything? No, I don't know.
All right. So who's after that? Stephen Gibbons.
Stephen Gibbons, I guess.
So my number 3, this is a game I actually started in 2017. I don't know when. And I picked it back up in December of 2017. After I might have even started in 2000. I don't remember when it came out. But anyways, and it's Rayman Legends. And that game, that is such a fun platformer. And I played it with Asher, my son, a lot, and just had a really fun time with that game. And in fact, Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends are both really great games. But I think, Robert, you would know, but I think all of the levels from Rayman Origins are actually in Rayman Legends. So don't buy both games if you're going to,
Yeah.
unless there's, I don't even know of any kind of, the story's always the same in Rayman. So the story's totally unimportant. But as you play Rayman Legends, you unlock the original levels from Origins. But
I haven't beat Rayman Legends yet. I'm playing it with Peter, and we actually just played some levels today of it. We're almost to the end.
so here's what I
played it today.
one of my favorite aspects of that game is when you complete a world and you play the music level at the very end. You beat the boss, and then they have a bonus music level, and it's still a challenging level, but it's such a treat. You play to it's almost like a runner, like the runner games. You have to jump and attack and do things in accordance with whatever music playing, the drums or whatever beat, and it just is really enjoyable. It's like a little treat they give you for a little award for beating that world. It's really fun. Just one of the many things that I love about those platformers. But Rayman Legends is really good.
Cool.
Sweet.
Lauren, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back. So I heard Reagan talking about Resident Evil 7. Did I miss what what he talked about?
Yeah, I did the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which is the PS4 remaster of the 3 Spyro games, which is just a 3D platformer, pretty
Yeah, the
straightforward
little dragon,
games.
little purple dragon or something. Cool.
Yep. Do you want to go, Lauren?
Yeah, just real quick. I actually talked about this last year, but I hadn't quite finished it when we met last year. And this is actually a VR experience. It's called The Gallery Episode 2 Heart of the Emberstone. And what I actually finished it and then replayed it later this year because I enjoyed it so much. That, to me, that's what I want in VR, is more experiences like that. It's a really unique setting on like an alien planet. The different weapons and things, and you have like telekinetic powers that use your hands. That was really fun and unique. It felt a little bit like the gravity gun at times. But then on top of that, it was like a strong puzzle game, which I really enjoy in VR. It just feels so satisfying to feel like you are Indiana Jones and you're unlocking tombs and finding keys and treasures, and I just really enjoyed it. So I ended up replaying that, and it's an episodic game that's continuing. I'm looking forward to episode 3, which I believe is coming out early next year. But anyway, yeah, if you do ever get a Vive or Oculus, I would recommend those games.
Sweet.
VR
What was it
prices
called
have come
again?
Down a lot.
The Gallery, episode 2, Heart of the Emberstone.
What was that, Reagan?
I said I think I've seen like the price of the Vive has come down so much, hasn't it? It's like $500 now.
Might even be 400 on sale, yeah.
Hey, that's a purchasable price right there for me. I need to start considering that.
The Vive Pro came out, which is not worth the cost, by the way. Don't purchase it. But that's
What
why
does
the
the Vive
Vive has
Pro
come
have?
down in price.
Is the Vive Pro just a better, higher resolution screen?
Yes, but not $1,200. They charge $1,200 for it. It's not worth that. But it is better. It's just not better enough.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you guys know this, but you were talking about finger tracking in the void and everything, and Valve has been working on something called the Knuckle controllers for over a year now, and they're on their last phase of developing those, and those are incredible. Those are really going to change the VR hand controls. But also, there was a leak just a few months ago that has been proven to be legit, which is a headset that Valve is working on. It uses the same chips that are in the Knuckle controllers, and it's anticipated that when Valve eventually someday in the next 3 decades announces their VR experiences, that they'll probably announce their own hardware to go along with it. So I think they're kind of hoping for their games to be those killer apps that sell lots of units. So we'll see what happens.
We all know what they have to do. It's a simple marketing move. Everybody knows it's the
I know.
dumbest thing ever.
Well, and supposedly one of the 3 they're working on is a Half-Life game. But it's not Half-Life 3 because they can't count to 3.
Did you just say one of the 3 things that they're working on?
Yeah. That's the joke.
That's funny. Okay. So Stephen Loper.
And Stephen Gibbons, what was yours? I have such a short memory.
My number 3, it was Rayman Legends.
Rayman Legends, that's right.
I played the demo
Okay.
for that on the Wii U and really enjoyed it.
It's
Rayman
fun.
Legends. Yeah.
I think that was a PS Plus game at some point, Lauren.
Oh,
Right.
I missed it.
So, number 3, coming back, I think someone was talking about this earlier. And I, unlike Robert, am not a big fan of 3D platformers. Not my favorite genre. I played Psychonauts just a little bit this year and did not like it and uninstalled it. And I don't know, I've never really liked 3D platformers all that much. But there was so much hype going into this game and game of the year talk, and so I was like, well, I'll just get it. And man, this did not disappoint me at all. There was so much originality in the levels, these unique places they created. The hat mechanic was so fun and unique. I don't like the gimmicky ways that Mario games, like, I don't know. It seems like Nintendo at times has just run out of ideas. And they're like, well, we have to have Mario do something besides run and jump and shoot fire with flowers. So let's give him a backpack with water on it and call it Flood. Like, I did not enjoy that. And so I was worried that Cappy was going to be the next gimmick that just kind of fell flat. But dang, this was really fun. And I'm not a big, like, completionist. I'm more into stories. But it really did not bother me at all that this was a collectathon, story-free platformer. Because there was, like, the story for me was just, like, the discovery of all the new little fun things, like, just finding out, oh, I can take that over with my cap. Oh, I can become a dinosaur. Like, yeah, my favorites were the dinosaur and the slab of meat. Like, who, what game has you become a slab of meat? That was just, oh man, that was funny. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Mario games. I'm not, like, I know Robert and Steven, you guys are for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
You're Mario fanboys for sure. And I'm not, but man, this was one game this year that I couldn't stop playing. This was one of the fastest completions that I had in a game this year, compared with, like, the size, the length of the game. And I didn't even beat it all the way. I didn't get all the extra moons and everything, but man, I really liked this game a lot. It's a lot of fun. Just fun. Just fun. That's it. It was just fun and silly, and yeah, I enjoyed every hour I spent on this game.
I feel like what you mentioned about 3D platformers being frustrating or not the best, I think the camera control has so much to do with that, right? And I think
Yeah.
Mario games have really perfected the 3D platformer camera. And when I played 3D Mario World on the Wii U, I was just blown away by the creativity of that game and the constant changing between 2D and 3D that they do. And they do that in Mario Odyssey as well. It
Yep.
worked so well, and I think Mario Odyssey just improved on that. And you mentioned it feels like Mario is just kind of like they're running out of ideas. I feel the opposite when I play those Mario games, like the latest Odyssey and 3D World. I'm like, how do they keep coming up with such crazy original ideas that manage to work? That's
Right.
amazing to me. That it's not just stomping on Goombas or Koopas, whatever they're called. It's like the way
Both.
they add in random cat suits and throwing your hat at T-Rexes and all that random stuff, and it somehow works is incredible to me. Like, the creativity is
Yeah.
off the charts. The polish is off the charts. I can't think of a single bug in those games other than
Nope.
sometimes the camera in past versions of their, Mario games. So to me, it's like the
Well, and I'm glad-
perfection of that genre. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about, I've been a Bethesda fan for years, and they're the buggiest developer,
Yeah.
one of the buggiest developers on the planet. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, what's the most polished games? And I thought, essentially anything from Nintendo.
Right.
I like the words Mario and patch don't go together.
Right.
I've never heard of Nintendo patching a Mario game, and I might be missing something, but it's pretty amazing when you think about how big these games are, how many puzzles there are, how many potential spots these could go wrong. Mario could clip through things. He just doesn't.
Right. To me, that Mario Odyssey, the little bit I played, it was such a pleasant, fun experience, and it was completely free of issues, you know. And that's the other thing. It feels like it's going to be awkward. Like, what do I do? How do I throw this hat? But it just works. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we can hear you, Cade.
That's all right.
Oh, so if you're running the meeting, though, Cade, is that going to be a problem? Can he leave and let the meeting continue?
I'm not sure. Is he trying to talk?
He's just chatting because it comes
he
through
can still have
easier.
you-
He has been talking.
Well,
Big
sorry
smile
to
for the
go
camera.
through.
Thanks, Cade.
Hollow Knight, I've heard a lot of good things about, and I know Stephen Gibbons is playing it religiously right now, and I just barely started it.
That's one I want to play as well.
I would love to talk about Hollow Knight a little bit, but I haven't finished it.
Cool.
I agree with Kate. I actually never beat Sydney. I played that game almost to the end and never beat it. And I think I had it on my PSP, but I don't have that anymore.
Oh, cool.
So I stopped playing Hollow Knight because
Yeah, God of the War won Game of the Year at the Game Awards this year.
I heard that.
Blows Nintendo polish away.
That is high praise. I
Close
mean,
Nintendo polish away.
that's. I have to say, for the most part, I think PS4 exclusives are similar. They are very polished.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, sure he
Well,
will.
yeah.
So one quick thing about Hollow Knight, because Robert's right, I am playing that quite a bit, and since that's Cade's, and gonna chat about it a bit. But I started playing it again, but I stopped for a while. I've stopped twice because I kind of explored myself into a corner, and I think it just in the back of my mind it kind of frustrated me, and I just went on to other games. But I have picked it back up again, and I did start using this little map online, this interactive map where you can zoom in on certain areas, and it's kind of helped me get through some areas I was stuck in. And it's made it so much more fun for me, and I am playing it a lot. I was hoping to finish it before tonight so I could add it to my list because it would have been up on my top 5 for sure. It's really fun.
Awesome.
What game is that?
Hollow Knight,
Hmm.
the one Cade's number 2. It's not. It'll be on my next year's list probably.
That was on someone's list last year. I can't remember who.
Yeah, Robert, maybe? No?
No, Robert.
I recommended Little Nightmares, but I haven't played Hollow Knight. But it did come out last year, and I know a lot of people were recommending it.
Robert, you're rocking, aren't you? Ooh, there we go.
What's funny is you've got it in such a way that it doesn't rock you. It rocks the camera, which is even worse.
And there's the TikTok. It sounds like a clock.
I
from
put
the
my
rock.
feet back up again to stop it. Steve, I don't think anyone recommended Hollow Knight last year. I think you bought it.
I feel like someone mentioned it.
No, someone did. I wrote down the recommendations from last year that I didn't have. Doom, Cuphead, Shadow Warrior 2, Hitman 2016, Hyperlight Drifter, Hollow Knight, Owlboy, Little Nightmares.
I may have started it back then and talked about it, but
That's probably it.
It's also
Probably not.
possible Cade did
Uh,
that too. Maybe Cade finished it this year.
that's true.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Kate did bring that up. I think it's maybe not. I don't know.
Somebody brought it up because I write down the things that you guys recommend.
Cool. All right. Well, should we move on then to...
Did you guys see that? Cade just requested that someone text him the top games at the end. So let's
Okay,
make
you usually add
sure
it to your
sure
video.
you reach out to him and just let him know what the top games are.
Well, Lauren, when you've posted it, you've always taken our top 10 and added it to it, right? Haven't you always done that in the comments or something?
No.
Someone usually has. But has someone been keeping track of everyone's this year?
I've been writing them down for the most part, except mine.
I haven't been writing mine down.
Maybe
or anyone's down.
Steve Loper, maybe you can...
I got
Share
And
with the group.
Plus, Alice Madness Returns,
Okay.
Dragon Age Origins, Yoshi's Woolly World, Spyro Reignited, Gallery, Rayman Legends, Hollow Knight, God of War. Did I miss any? That's mine.
I think that's good. Did we?
Did you get Alice Madness Returns?
Yeah, he
Mhm.
said that.
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah. Okay.
So are we done with? Are we on?
Are we
Number
down to
2.
number 2 now?
Yeah, we're on number 2, and I think it's Lauren's turn.
Oh, we've kind of switched around order. Okay, so this is probably not very surprising, but it's Dark Souls Remastered for
Wait,
me.
are we starting with Reagan, or are we going to rotate him back in normally? Sorry.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
rotating
sorry.
him back
Go
in
ahead.
Okay, that's
normal.
We'll do it. We'll go back to alphabetical, so he'll be next. It's Dark Souls Remastered for me, and you guys have already touched on what makes Dark Souls great. I couldn't put it as number 1 just because it's been my number 1 so many years in a row. It seems like. I've played Dark Souls 1 many times. I didn't actually beat Remastered this year, and part of that is because I was hoping we would all co-op it together, and then we all kind of got at different places in the game, and that never really worked out. And I'm obsessed with Rocket League, so I just played that more than anything. But Dark Souls Remastered, just like Steven said, it was an amazing experience, just like Dark Souls is, but there were also some major disappointments. I don't feel like the graphics upgrade was that much of an upgrade.
no.
DS Fix was pretty much just as good or better.
It was just a retexturing. There was no like added
Right.
physics as far as like cloth
Well,
physics or anything like that.
but
Would have made it more.
Personally,
pleasant
I
to-
didn't want them to update the physics. I didn't want them to make it like Dark Souls 3 or any. I wanted it to still be the same game. I just wanted it to look better and have a better frame rate. And it did do that, but
That's part of making it look better for me. I mean, just make the freaking skirt move normally instead of.
yeah, so there were a lot of things they could have improved. But I feel like the actual physics of Dark Souls 1 are perfect the way they are, and they shouldn't have messed with that. I'm glad they didn't. It has the same glitches and bugs.
Right. The actual like, yeah, everything else as far as hitboxes, all of that stuff should be kept uniform. But I just wish it could have been
But to me, the reason why it was worth purchasing on day 1 for me is because any game that Miyazaki from FromSoft releases, I'm going to support on day 1 because he's earned that from me.
Did
And-
you get Deracine?
What's that?
Did you get Deracine?
No, because I don't have a PlayStation VR.
Oh, okay. Check and see if you got everything. They
But
want.
he really is just. I just feel like he can do no wrong, or he hasn't yet for me.
Maybe this is a good time to bring it up. How do you? I don't know how I feel about this samurai game that they're working on.
Man,
It's
I
just
can't
the
wait.
genre.
It looks amazing to me.
I'm gonna get that day 1 for sure. There's no hesitation in my mind.
I'm
I've
so
watched enough.
stoked.
I'm amped.
To me, it looks like Dark Souls meets Bloodborne meets platforming, which I can't wait for. You know,
I'm nervous because they've changed the whole mechanics of it. It's not like a Souls game though.
and that's
They
that's
have
okay.
removed some fundamental things, but I think they want to do that to show that their games are big and important, not because of that Souls mechanic, which has been copied in so many games, including Hollow Knight. Speaking of which, but yeah, just like that's become such a popular theme when you lose your souls upon your second death if you haven't collected them. Kind of
Right.
thing. But
Well, I was
and
going to
it's
say,
because of that, they're good.
as far as Dark Souls Remastered goes, I feel like it delivered on everything it promised, except maybe the graphics improvement. But the main reason I wanted it was because the improved co-op ability and online element. When I played Dark Souls 1 for my first time, not a lot of people were playing online, and then the people who were just totally like trolls who were like hacking and causing all kinds of trouble. And so the PvP portions of Dark Souls 1 were miserable to me. And trying to connect with friends was just a miserable experience. We would try to connect and it would just be such a pain. So I was glad that when we did connect, it worked so well and it was quick and we could
Yeah,
do it based on a password just like Bloodborne. That was great. And Stephen Loper and I talked about this last week, but I actually still want to do a co-op version of that game with you guys next year. I think we should pick some night or do it on game night for an hour or two and just play Dark Souls 1 through together because it's so worth it. And co-oping it is a whole new fun experience. You can work on different builds, things like that. So, yeah.
One thing that we talked about with the guys that I played Dark Souls 2 with this year, which didn't make my list, but that's another story, was doing just total fashion Souls,
Yeah.
like cosplay. So one of the guys that I did with, he made a really perfect cosplay of a Final Fantasy character and rocked dual castices the whole game.
That's amazing.
And it was one of the Final Fantasy guys. I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, Zeldinch.
3, right?
From what?
Oh, there's a guy from 3 that has like essentially those weapons.
3?
From Dark Souls 3.
I think, is it 9?
3.
Oh, I'm talking about Final Fantasy.
And that's what I'm saying. I
He
guess
had-
there's probably a lot of characters
Oh.
from Final Fantasy that use those.
Final Fantasy
weapons.
8.
Hmm.
It was Final Fantasy 8. Zell. He's like has white hair. Anyway, he did the face. He did the hair. Like he made the character into Zell. And so it was just Fashion Souls the whole way,
That's fun.
which was fine because he had played it before, and we were doing 3-player co-op the whole time. So whenever we got invaded, it was 3v1 because we weren't using the withered hand.
Yeah, I have to say Dark Souls 2, in my opinion, got the PvP right better than even 3 did. I spent a lot of time playing Dark Souls 2 PvP. It was fun.
I don't know. Number 3 with some of those Fight Club things they did in 3 were so fun with just different
That's
people
true.
from different covenants invading. You had like blue and purple and white and red phantoms running around, and that was fun.
That's true, it was. But it was almost always a gank squad. Like, you could never just do a nice 1v1, I felt like. It was rare. Well, anyway, Dark Souls, to me, will always be like the perfect game. I'm just glad they did a remaster. Honestly, I might buy it again for the Switch because I just want to play Dark Souls handheld. I think that would be the best thing. Take it with me places, you know?
You guys should let me know. I don't pay as close attention anymore, so if it goes on sale on Steam, someone should just text me.
Yeah. It's definitely worth it. So anyway, that's my number 2. Now Reagan.
Number 2 is The Witcher 3,
Nice.
which I also haven't beaten. If that's a requirement, then I will not. I would have one game.
That's not a requirement.
You can have it on next year's list also.
That's the
But I
trick.
put in enough hours. I think more than 30, 25 or 30 or something. So I definitely understand the game and what it's about. And yeah, I think CD Projekt Red, it is interesting. Like they do. I don't really love open world games a lot because for me, there's almost too many choices, and I'd like to have a little bit more of an arc that feels like timed, and the pacing of a sandbox game can't ever be as good as a narrative game because you can go wherever you want to go, and I like the narratives in games the most. So with that being said, when you do pick a storyline and you stick with it, they really do have a very mature approach to their stories, and it was really cool.
So are you looking forward to the Netflix TV show based on The Witcher?
I am looking forward to it. I actually just heard about that recently.
So on
Henry
another side
Cavill.
note to that, I've been reading the Witcher books. I've never played the games, but the books are, in my opinion, the translator of those books did the author obviously did a phenomenal job. The translator did a really, really good job. And the narrator is, I didn't listen to the audiobooks, but is my favorite narrator of any audiobook I've ever listened to.
Really? I'll have to check those out.
They're really, he does a really good job, but everything about it, it's more prosaic almost. Those books, they're a little shorter than like a normal fantasy novel might be, but they are just awesome. And yeah, they're really good. I think I'm on the 4th one right now, so fourth or 5th, I don't remember. But
I do think they create a really interesting lore, like the whole idea of what a Witcher is and how they're created and what they do. It is a really interesting. I could see those books being good, and I do think a TV show on Netflix could do really well as well. Also,
I hope so. Cool.
All right. My number 2 is Guacamelee 2, which it's so good that I debated making it my
Why are
number
you
1.
laughing?
I debated making it my number 1, but I felt like too many people would be mad at me if I did. So it's kind of simplistic, I guess. Some people might say it's got the best humor the best fighting, the best Metroidvania mechanics of any game that tries to do combinations of those three things I've ever seen.
More than
And it's-
Hollow Knight.
Yes, but I haven't played Hollow Knight. But Hollow Knight's not meant to be funny. But
Yes,
this,
and I'm
this
sticking
game
with
is
it.
funny, and it's got a fantastic art style, and it's got like these beat 'em up mechanics that I don't like beat 'em ups, but this game does combos so well and teaches you mechanics so well that every minute of this game was a blast to play. As soon as I beat it, I immediately started over again on hard mode because I wanted to get all the trophies in hard mode. And as soon as I was done with hard mode, I was sad that there were no more trophies to collect. And I wanted to keep playing it. And there is some DLC that just dropped, so I am going to go back and play it now. But everything about this game was just fantastic. I loved it. And if you haven't played the first one, play it and then play this one because it is the time of your life. That is all.
I'll be the judge of that.
But it's still not number one.
Nope.
He said
not
he
number
didn't.
one.
He only didn't put that because he felt like you would judge him.
Peer pressure, huh?
Exactly. No, number one deserves to be number one, but this
I
could
know
have
what
been
your number one
too.
is.
I would have been happy to. All right. Who's up next?
That's me, I think. So my number 2 is Mario Odyssey. We've already said a lot about it, but I'm in Lauren's corner on this one. I do think that Nintendo is so creative, and that game just showed
Don't
any
get me
doubt-
wrong. I didn't mean that Nintendo wasn't creative. I meant to say that there had been things that they had done that I felt were kind of lame, and
Yeah.
this totally like reinvigorated my absolute love affair.
Yeah.
So even going back to I think that even their Mario Sunshine was very creative, although it had its many flaws. But that game I played from start to finish and collected everything and loved it as well. But
That one did feel gimmicky to me.
camera. But Mario Odyssey is just it's such a great game, and just it really shines in every aspect. I don't remember a moment where some games you hit a wall or you get frustrated or you stop playing because for whatever reason, maybe a difficulty spikes and like that. But it just in every way is fun from start to finish, and I never did. Like you said, Steve, it was one of your quickest completions for a game, and for me it was as well. And I collected every moon, just fun every second.
Cool.
Amen.
So many platformers. I like you, Steven. I'm not a platformer fan at all. However, so many on the list this year. I'm thinking maybe I need to revisit, see if my tastes have
matured. Let's say if your tastes have
Actually,
matured.
like going backwards almost.
Well, you were talking, Stephen Loper, about Psychonauts being frustrating, and I have to agree. That was one of those games that, to me, the environments and the creativity were all there, and I loved the dialogue and everything, but man, the gameplay frustrated me because it's just, I felt like I couldn't even jump on the platform,
Yep, you nailed it.
And
you nailed it. The environments were beautiful. It was fun. It was funny. It was clever. I liked the whole idea, but just playing it was a chore.
Yeah, it really, and when you play a game for gameplay, some of those games really ruin it. And Mario manages to walk that line really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth a borrow, Reagan. It's worth if you have a Switch, borrow it from a friend and play it for a couple of hours.
The thing. And I can't see myself getting a Switch because
I
don't know. No.
We have one. We have little kids and they play Super Smash Bros.
Yeah. I gotta say, every Nintendo console since the GameCube, I'm like, I don't need that. And then as soon as I played it, I was like, I need this. It's happened 4 Nintendo consoles in a row for me.
I would try. I try to get my daughter to play some of those type of games, and she's not into it. She's an iPad person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating for me as a
well, I have a 9-year-old boy, and he's all about Super Smash Bros. And Minecraft. So
Yeah.
Reagan, start her out on Mario Run and see if that gets her interested in Mario.
Mario Run, but she likes
Oh, she's
Sonic
tried.
Run.
The problem with Mario
Super
Run is it's
Super.
one of those like you gotta unlock stuff to enjoy it games. It seems like I don't know.
true.
Or you
Well,
gotta pay
if you
money
pay
or
$10,
something.
if you pay
Freemium.
it's
Yeah.
free for the first 4 levels, but you just pay $10 for the whole game. Is really
I
the
just
way to
bought the
go.
Oh,
game.
is that what it
I
is?
paid for the whole
I don't know
thing.
why, but I hate that. I feel like they're stealing my money when they do that.
But Miyazaki, take more.
Yeah, exactly. He could steal all my money.
Hey, Miyazaki, I got something for you.
Rain
There you go.
Oh,
All right,
man.
Stephen Loper, number 2.
All right. Number 2. Okay, so this number 2 was kind of like Robert's, where this was absolutely my number 1 after I was done playing it. And I was like, there's no game that is going to dethrone this one.
I love that game.
Dishonored. Oh my gosh, this game is a masterpiece. It's a really well-made game, and this is a game that I felt like very well could have been super buggy at release and could have been janky and had problems. But for what I like, this story this game hit all the buttons for me. Great story, investment in the characters, the ability to turtle strategically, which is my favorite way to play just about anything. But I also sometimes like to be able to just hack and slash and terrify people. I really do enjoy stealth games, and this was like one of the best stealth games I've ever played, just because of the way that it lets you really creatively stealth. And the BioShock style blend of magic and weapons was like awesome.
Agreed.
The gameplay is so much fun, but it's short enough that I kind of wanted to just start it over again and play with different perks. But I loved the little stories. I got so lost in the like steampunk Victorian world and the stories about the whale blubber and
Yeah, the whales.
the way they collect things, and I just got lost in this like, seaside, everybody goes on boats, and I don't know, I just got lost in the world of it. It was one of the best games I've played, and except for my number 1, this absolutely would have been my number 1 this year. But just talking about it makes me want to just run out and buy the second one, but that came out too recently, so we'll have to wait.
5-year lag.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my 5-year lag, exactly.
You know,
So
you
I've
just
got a few
reminded
years
me
to
that I
wait.
played Dishonored 2 this year.
Oh,
How was it?
Amazing.
yeah.
Somehow I forgot that.
There you go.
Where would you rank
Okay.
it in your top 4? Where would you rank it?
I would put it at number 2.
Nice.
Okay.
I have to say, Dishonored was just perfect. The length of Dishonored was just right.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the environments as well. There's only 2 things that I felt that are a little bit weak, but that's also just probably a first time playing it through thing. One was, these games where you level up so gradually that you never feel like you're powerful until the very end and then it's over. I very much felt that way with Dishonored. And maybe it's just because I didn't level up correctly. I don't know. But then the other thing is, as much as I wanted to go in all stealthy, it always ended up with me running and just hacking and slashing. I never managed to stay
It's
stealthy.
called
what I mean?
patience, Lauren, and you don't have
Yeah, and I don't apparently.
But honestly, Lauren, that's one of the things I really liked about this game was that it gave you the ability to, if you screwed up, that you can just go in and start gunning away and take people out.
Yeah, and I did enjoy that too, but I just feel like it almost always turned into that because I never was able to manage to stay stealthy for very long. So,
Well, you need to play more stealth games, I guess.
I
yeah.
couldn't
Hey,
agree
Reagan,
more.
what was your number 3?
Resident Evil VR,
That's right. Thanks.
which definitely wouldn't be there now.
Which
that
is number
I know that I
4
played
now.
Dishonored 2. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I couldn't agree. I just want to say, like, the Dishonored world, the aesthetic is absolutely one of the coolest worlds. I agree. There's something about that whole that genre. Like, so it's like steampunk, but not overcooked steampunk.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Right.
Oh, it felt like
Yeah.
a real world. It felt like history almost, like it was a time in our history. I love
It's something
that.
about the outsider and just like the sort of the dark style of it, and where you feel like I'm like this guy's not a good guy, but he's helping me, and you feel. I remember when I played Dishonored 1, I felt legitimately. I had like this unease about what I was playing. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
this game is like I'm the darkness. I'm totally becoming evil, but I love it, and it's
Yeah.
weird. And so
I remember you, and
I
then
know
you
how I
stopped
feel.
playing it because it made you feel too
I
dark.
did. I literally stopped playing it because I had a moment. I was like, I can't play this anymore because it's making me like the darkness too much. But then I revisited it like a year
Yeah.
later.
You know, it's interesting because in the Bioshock games, it's almost like you're being manipulated into being evil. But in Dishonored, it does feel like it's a choice. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's kind of
And
interesting.
that's why I like the stealth, because except for your specific targets, even the assassination targets, there are different ways that the game shifts if you choose not to kill them. If you keep
Right.
them alive, there are less guards in future levels. And so I actually played a minimalist lethality playthrough when I was playing it, and it's a lot harder. You have to invest
Yeah.
a lot more time sneaking around to save those people and to not murder them. And I thought, yeah, like if I was Corvo, these are my colleagues, right? These are my coworkers. I'm not just going to go through and murder them all. They think I'm a bad guy. I know that I'm not, but they don't know that. But
Right.
I'm not going to kill them Right. just because they don't know that. And yeah, it was.
But that
I'm with
takes a lot
Reagan.
of
I
work.
felt,
A lot of work.
yeah, it takes a lot of work. Yeah, but the darkness. I'm with you, Reagan. It was like I can't just murder all these people.
I love it when you get the ability where when you stab somebody from stealth, they just turn to ashes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Then it's on. Then it's on. Then you can just go through real quick.
Yep.
And I think that the blink mechanic for me, like you were talking about the hat mechanic being amazing. For me, I can't think of a better mechanic than blink.
Yeah, I agree. That was
I'm playing
awesome.
a first person game. I want every game to have that.
Portal.
So-
That's the only other like mind blowing effect was Aperture
Right.
Science and the portal
That is
gun.
also a great
So
great one.
I have to say too, I loved. I don't know, maybe other games have done this, but the UI in Dishonored and the quick select of stuff felt
Mhm.
so. It flowed
Mm.
so well. The
Yeah.
jumping into the menu and then going back to the game, it was just like so smooth that it didn't feel like it was interrupting the gameplay. I loved that too about
The other
Dishonored.
thing that game does that it was the first game I tried this on was where you can get rid of the entire UI.
Mhm.
Like
Oh,
you can
yeah.
get it.
You don't
can
need
save
it.
all the way. And I did that because I wanted to feel so immersed in that game that I would just and you can play without any information. And I did that, and I recommend doing that because
That's cool. I didn't know
it's
you
nice
could do
not
that.
to see anything.
You can do that in Dark Souls 3 too, and I started doing that once I realized you could. I didn't do it always, but if I was in an area I'd been in before and I felt confident enough, I'd take off the UI or that
That's
whole
cool.
thing. So you just have it's much more
Just the
immersive.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like doing that.
That's cool.
Anyway, good choice. Dishonored's a great story.
So you would recommend Dishonored 2? Because that's, as much as I love Dishonored, I just haven't thought to get number 2.
I would recommend it, yes, because it's the same gameplay. Whether or not you think the story is as good, which that's debatable, I still think it's a great. I mean, it's the same gameplay. So
Cool.
if you want more Dishonored,
Did you play Death of the Outsider as well?
I did not.
I didn't.
I think I'm playing on Cade's account
Hmm.
with like sharing, and I don't think he has that.
Okay.
Well,
All
when-
right.
is
Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
it? Well, is it back to me? I wasn't sure. I think it is, right? We're on number 1. I have to
Yeah.
Number
say,
1.
when you said, "Oh yeah, I forgot I played Dishonored 2," I remembered a game that I played a ton this year that I didn't include, and I would put this as my number 3 probably, which was the Talos Principle VR. I don't know if you guys have played that game, but I can't believe I forgot that I played that. I spent a lot of time in that game, and it's basically like a puzzle solving game where you literally just go from room to room or from level to level solving puzzles. But I really enjoyed it, so I feel bad that I forgot about that one. But anyway, my number 1 is The Last of Us. I finally managed to play it. I bought it like 3 years ago, and I finally finished it just a week ago. And you've all played it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Okay,
have.
good.
Yeah, Lauren was worried that Steve Loper hadn't played it, but
Right, I didn't want to
apparently
talk
he
about
has.
spoilers, but okay. So
Spoil
literally
away.
up to like an hour before the game ended, my only complaint about the game was the same complaint I have about the Uncharted games was that you're supposed to be this good guy, but you just run into each area and just kill everybody. And it bothered me that that wasn't really taken into account in The Last of Us, because everything else was so well thought out and the story was so good and the characters were so amazing. And then at the end, when you suddenly realize, I'm not a good guy, or at least that's how it was for me. I am not a good guy. And I realized it, and it all worked for me. So my biggest complaint about Naughty Dog games is that sort of, you're a hero, but you shoot everyone in the face. You know?
I have to challenge that though. I feel like The Last of Us sets you up that way from the very, very beginning.
It does, but you
were
don't.
literally
But you don't want to believe it.
bombs and killed people.
At least for me, you don't want to believe it. You want to believe that your reasons for killing people is somewhat justified. At least I did.
Maybe.
And
he kind of hints even in the moment when they are about to get kidnapped, right? When he knows the person who's hurt, and he's like, back the truck up, we have to back away. It's because, and she asks him, how did you know? And he's like, he kind of hints at it there, like he used to do that. He used to
You're
rob
right.
people.
You're right. And
Well,
part of the weakness
Well, you
is
don't know. He alludes to it. It might be, but he's a smuggler and a survivalist.
so I have to say part of the
He's a murderer.
problem is that it took me a good year and a half to play that game all the way through, just because I started it 2 or 3 times and just couldn't get into it. And this year we had a movie theater installed in our basement, and so I played it on a very large screen in the dark, and that's when it caught on for me because it was such a beautiful cinematic experience. And that's when it worked for me. And even then, I couldn't play it with my kids watching or anything, so I had to find time to play it. And so I may have missed some of those details, which is interesting. But that's the thing that I love about that game is after it's over, I wanted to immediately talk to people about it. I wanted to read up on it, and I went online and I read some people's thoughts on it, and I was blown away by the depth of the game and the story.
That's exactly
Stuff
what I
that
did.
I didn't catch, but I felt impacted by it. And then when I read other people's thoughts, I was like, man, it's even better than I thought, you know. And the way that it ends with Ellie's character saying, "Okay," I couldn't think of a better way to write that because it's so open-ended and so it's such a conclusive statement at the same time. I don't know. It was beautiful to me. I could talk about it for a long time. You've all played it, but I think you all understand. Story-wise, it was magnificent. As far as the gameplay goes, it was just another Naughty Dog game to me. There were some moments that were frustrating, but for the most part, it was way better experience than Uncharted. I didn't feel like I was constantly trying to hop up ledges, and the stealth mode with the clickers was actually really cool, and I enjoyed that for the most part. But still, it feels like a forced. You know, the Naughty Dog games are so beautiful, but they're also so linear. There's no open world nature to it. You're
Which I'm
very
okay
much
with.
forced down a path, and that
Give me
is
more of that,
okay.
please.
That is okay, but it also feels very limiting at times, which can be a little bit frustrating, in my opinion. But anyway,
I like that.
But yeah, that's go ahead, Reagan.
I was gonna say sometimes I just want that. I want to give me like the perfect story arc, and take me through this journey. Like I get a little bit overwhelmed when there's too many options and too many choices. I'm just like I'm totally okay with that linear playthrough.
well, and we were talking about like Telltale games where it's almost too much story and not enough gameplay, and I feel like Last of Us did a really good job of balancing that. It really felt like a cinematic experience that I got to interact with at times.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't like an Uncharted game where you run into an area, you shoot people, you run into another area, shoot people. It felt like every area I ran into was a new challenge or it was moving the story forward, and I did appreciate
Did you
that.
play the DLC?
I haven't yet. I started it,
Okay.
but I haven't finished it.
Listen,
Wait, what?
when I mentioned my number one game of this year, I'm going to compare it to The Last of Us, and it's like I don't know if it's it's like this debate whether or not it's better than The Last of Us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really about, is it better than The Last of Us DLC? Because The Last of Us DLC is the best story writing I've ever experienced in a game ever,
Awesome. I'm excited to finish it then.
and that's
So-
specifically the mall part of the game for those who have played it.
I'm in that part, but I just
I
barely
still
got
haven't
there.
played the DLC. I was waiting for Lauren to finish it so I could borrow his.
Yeah.
I'm getting seasick again, Robert. Anyways, The Last of Us, and I do agree. The gameplay itself, like actually engaging in those fights, it felt like so secondary to such a spectacular story.
Right.
It wasn't like something that blew me away, except for one thing. It was so violent.
Yeah.
That you had to confront that. Like it was so purposeful, and you live in this violent world, and you're moving through this violent world, and like you said, every area is important to the story, which was also really, really awesome. So that they weren't just throwing situations at you just to give you, just to build hours in the game.
Right.
But the violent component of it wasn't like it was glorifying it for me. It was like hard for me to go to get through those areas because of that. And that's what caught my eye on that game when I was watching, when it was announced. I remember watching, I think it was during E3 or something, and watching the trailer for that game, and I was like shocked at what they were showing on screen. I was like, holy cow, that is in a video game like that. It was brutal, so.
Yeah. I want to say I agree. I wish I could have sat down and played that over the course of like a couple weeks, because I think I would have appreciated some of that a little more. But I want to say a couple things too about it. One of the things that blew me away with this game was the tone. Like right from the loading screen with that little bit of pollen that blows over the blackness, and it plays that very simple acoustic guitar sound. There's this feeling to it. There's this tone to it that I just really loved. And then like the moment when you get into Salt Lake City and you see the giraffes. That moment was so like surreal and beautiful, and it just felt incredible to me. And it was followed up immediately by probably one of the hardest parts of the game, where you're going through this tunnel where there are all these clickers and big fat bosses and stuff. I have to say another thing though is I wanted to finish this game so badly just so that I could say I had a game to finish, that I intentionally chose to play it on easy mode. And I found out about an hour before it ended that you can turn on auto aim. Because one of the most frustrating things for me with the Uncharted games is the stupid attempt at aiming the gun and being bad at it. I feel like Naughty Dog's just not great at gun stuff, and I didn't want to bother with that.
Yeah.
And so I realized there's an auto aim feature in Last of Us, and yes, it made it way easier, and some people might say, well, you didn't play the game the way it was meant to be played, but I don't care. It immediately made the gameplay so much better for me that I'm actually tempted to go back and play it with auto aim on, because I do want to experience that story again.
I think I had auto aim on the whole time. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, it made it so
I
much
think
better.
I may have used that
It
as
kind of
well.
locks on when you get close, doesn't it?
What's that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I never had it locked on until the very end, and I was
But I agree that they don't have like shooting down perfectly.
right. But that's also kind of okay, because it fits within the reality of you're just some guy trying to shoot at things coming at you. Maybe it wouldn't be that easy, but I don't know.
Also,
I don't
we
think
could
so.
say probably the best soundtrack on the game. It might it's
So
up there.
good.
It might be the best.
And that's another thing is that guy. What's the name of the guy who did the voice for Joel?
The guy who does all the voices.
That guy had like an incredible year, right? He did the main character for Booker in BioShock
Troy
Infinite.
Baker.
He did Troy Baker. He did the Joker in Batman Arkham Origins. He did Joel. Like, he brought so much to that role. It was just incredible. I loved it. I can't wait for The Last of Us 2, but I also am worried because I feel like Naughty Dog almost made a perfect game. I don't know if they can redo that, and I think by creating a sequel, unless they're very careful, they almost ruin the ending of the first one, in my mind.
I'm so nervous, so nervous for number 2.
I think I already told Steven this a long time ago when we were talking about it. I feel the same way about Stranger Things season 2. I wish they wouldn't have kept the same characters. I would like to see Last of Us 2 about a completely different set of people on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. If you're gonna try to capitalize that and make more money, but yeah, And you know what, Stranger Things 2, I actually ended up enjoying it quite a bit, and I thought they did a fantastic job with it. I thought it was a worthwhile sequel for a series, but yeah, I am so nervous for The Last of Us 2. Very nervous.
So let me give one little thing about The Last of Us. So I played it really quick. I was recovering from something, and so I was kind of in bed, and that's what I just played all day long. So I beat The Last of Us in like 3 days
Wow.
or something like that, 3-4 days. And the one thing that I remember that I wrote down that you were talking about with the violence, and that we were kind of talking about with Dishonored, is that you feel a lot of the emotions of like fighting with somebody. And I had played a lot of these games with Spec Ops, not wanting to kill people, and with Dishonored. And here I am playing this one, and you're the bad guy, I get it. But even at the end, even at the very end of the game, the last NPC that you run into is a guy who just has a little knife.
Oh yeah,
and
the
you can't
doctor.
knock that guy out.
Right.
And I was like, I have to murder this guy?
Right.
He has a scalpel. Come on. This guy can't hurt me. I can't hit him with the butt of my shotgun.
Right.
Like, so that linearity bothered me a little bit, and that kind of stuck in my craw. But again, I'm with you guys. Like, so much of that game was so good. The story was amazing. The music was incredible. Just, oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, and
Great.
I have to say, related to that particular scene, you do have the ability to kill all the doctors in that room. Or you can just kill that one guy who's blocking your way to get to her. And there was that moment where I was like, oh, I can't just like push this guy aside. And in my mind, I realized this is a story decision because they don't want it to be an open end. They don't want it to be a choice-based ending. They want to tell you, you are playing as this character who is a person. You are not playing as yourself. And to me, that was very powerful because when you have to kill that doctor, that's like the final moment when you realize this is a story about me and Ellie. This is not a story about saving the world, And to me, that was, as frustrating as that moment was, I thought it was a brilliant story choice. And I'm so glad they forced you to do that. And I personally just shot that one doctor. I didn't shoot the other two. But you can potentially shoot all the doctors in the room,
Sure.
I just feel like that's what made it so impactful. Did you know that the original game was going to end in that room with a cutscene? They weren't even going to give you the ability to shoot anybody. There was just going to be a cutscene where you kill the doctors and the lady who's the head of the Fireflies in the room, and then you take Ellie. That was supposed to be the ending, but they decided to change it to give you a little bit more choice, and then you run out of the hospital with her before they cut to him killing the head of the Fireflies.
And the choice, they don't force you to do anything. You can end the story right there. You don't have to finish.
Well, that's true.
Just saying.
If you haven't read it, have you read the whole thing about the giraffes?
Yeah, Reagan, that thing you just posted, you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I just posted it in chat. It's a really amazing article about. It'll even give you a deeper understanding of just the level of attention that they were putting to this game.
Cool. I'm definitely gonna read this.
And for me personally, I'll just be quick about it though. Like, man, it was like such a transcendent experience because, one, we all live in Utah. We grew up there, right? So the whole thing about Salt Lake City has its own specialness to it. Add to it the fact that my daughter, she has a cuddle that represents me. It's a giraffe.
Cool.
And whenever she goes like that's daddy. When she needs daddy, she grabs the giraffe and sleeps with it. And so the fact, if you read that article about, so for me in particular, the whole thing about giraffes was like extra meaningful because it tied into my relationship with my daughter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know. That game was amazing.
Well, and I have wondered, is this game different for people who don't have daughters? I don't know, but I have 2 daughters, and by the end, I felt like Ellie was my daughter. Like that was so amazing how they managed to do that. It's great.
I think they managed to do that because of the very first scene. They set you up for just like, what? No. You know what I'm talking about? When you play as that other girl right at the very get-go.
And to me, this is what a mature game should be. It should be literally a game for mature people who have had some experience And not to say that I've had experience like his character, but the fact that he's a parent and I was playing as a parent had so much more meaning to me. If I played that game as a teenager, I just would not have appreciated a lot of it. You know what I mean? It was just made for. I feel like it was made for our age group, really, or
Okay.
older maybe. But anyway,
So I'm super excited for number 2. I might buy a PlayStation Pro just so I can play it in the best way possible.
that's true. Well, we
Maybe
spent a
it'll
lot
come
of
out on
time on that,
PlayStation
but
5.
that's my number 1.
Cool, Lauren.
That's the
right.
PS5 launch game.
Reagan, I think you're next.
My number 1 game of the year is God of War. Am I the only person that's played it here?
I think so.
It's on my list.
Barely, but
Look, there is a real debate about whether or not God of War is better than The Last of Us in certain respects. And Kate and I were talking about this. He just beat God of War. And I would say in some ways it's better than Last of Us, and in some ways I think that it can't be better. And I'm not going to spoil anything here, but I think the only as a narrative storytelling piece, God of War has taken it to the next level and done things that have never been done before. And so in that way it's better because it just, and I can't tell you until you've played it, but and it's hard to talk about until you guys have played it without spoiling it, but it does it's just how smooth it is. And what I didn't realize this, Kate told me this, that there's not a single cutscene in the entire game. And when he said that, I'm like, you're right, man. It feels so they built the game so that it never transitions. It's always one seamless. It's like one camera shot.
Wow.
no cutscenes and no loading
Loading
screen.
screens. It's one
Yeah, the
entire
camera
shot.
never
What?
cuts. The camera never cuts,
Yeah.
ever.
So it's sort of
Because
like
it
those
does
moments in Last of Us where you're just having dialogue with characters as you're playing. Is that how it works?
But that's the whole game.
Hmm.
It's just one camera shot. The camera moves around, but it's always there, and just that touch right there makes it feel really seamless and flows so well.
Was it buggy?
No, it's rock solid,
Wow.
not buggy at all. There's that, and then you know how we talk about pacing. There's a way that the level design and the way that God of War does its pacing. It's there's never been a game that nailed it so perfectly. For someone like me, who I don't like when you walk into the mini map and you have like The Witcher 3, even though I do like that game, I had to be in the right mood to play it because it's endless, you know. And this game, the way they do the design, it's like an onion. It kind of unwraps different layers at a different time, and it gives you just the right amount of where you feel like there's a lot to explore, but not so much to explore that you're gonna get like deviate from the main quest so far that by the time you get back on it, you don't even remember what you're doing. That and the gameplay and just the fighting itself is totally fun. Like you just want to run around and fight stuff all the time. It's always fun. And then also like The Last of Us, you have this, you guys know you're walking around with a young boy, a child, and so
Right.
you're creating that similar relationship that you had with Ellie, with only it's like for the sons.
It's a
Now
father-son
kinda how a game is meant
relationship.
for a father-son.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm real excited to play that game.
I've heard the soundtrack is incredible as well.
It's not as good as The Last of Us. I have to admit that. The one thing that God of War, I think I realized, like, part of the reason it can't quite feel as touching, maybe as, no, touching is not the right word,
Relatable.
because it's a game about fantasy,
Right.
in a way. You know, it's just harder. Like Last of Us is very visceral and gritty
Right.
and real because you're dealing with like real people, whereas in God of War it has a tall order to try to make you care as much in the same way when you're fighting monsters
Right.
and you're fighting fantasy creatures instead of like real.
Well, and you're like a Greek god or something, aren't you? Aren't you like Kratos?
Yes.
It's crazy. I definitely want to try that one.
All right.
I can mail it to you guys.
Yeah, we should just pass it around.
Yeah, I'll just send it out to you guys. Do you all have PlayStations?
Yeah,
so.
you can send it to someone else first. I actually got the original God of Wars recently, and I don't want to play those after the new best God of War, and so
But they also don't have to be played, right? They're not. This is
No,
like a
no, they
reboot,
don't.
essentially, isn't it?
more or
He
less,
just wants
they're
to play
completely
them and
different
not have
games.
this much better game ruin him for the other ones.
Exactly.
I totally
Well,
know
I
what you're talking
understand
about,
that, but
Robert.
you can almost treat them like they're not related, right? I mean,
You can.
Yeah.
I'm glad I played the other ones because there is just understanding Kratos, like his history. It does give you some context for some of the choices he's making and his attitudes towards certain characters. You could also just go watch YouTube videos and spend 1 hour doing that instead of like 50 hours beating all the games.
All right. My number one is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which I beat earlier this year, and the reason it's number one is just because of how impressive it is, and not only is it really fun to play and really polished, as we talked about the Nintendo polish that there is, but they designed every aspect of that game so that it's interesting and fun. And I never, like, every mechanic that they introduced, they did it to serve the interest of the game and not just to fill time or whatever. When I heard like there was a cooking mechanic in it, I was like, what? I don't want to have to cook food because I hate like survival mechanics. But they found a way to make cooking food so fun that by the end of the game, I was really enjoying like putting new recipes together.
Yeah.
And that's just a tiny part of a massive, massive game where every inch of the map is covered with interesting and unique things to do and explore. And they don't do the things that a lot of open world games do, which is copy and paste a bunch of things all over the map. Like, oh, take this tower over and kill these 10 guys in the tower and then do that 30 more times throughout the map. There are like towers that you can climb, but every tower is a little unique. Every region has unique enemies or unique cities or unique people. And there's hundreds, I can't remember exactly how many, like 120 shrines maybe. And every single one is unique, has a unique puzzle, a unique dungeon element. And so there's just so many unique things in the game that it just feels so massive and wonderful to explore, and I loved it. So it was my number one.
It really is a masterpiece. I have to say, though, the one thing that frustrates me the most about that game, you mentioned that everything in it serves a purpose. I don't like how quickly the weapons degrade. I think that's a mistake.
Now that's true. That is true. And in fact, last year I was playing this at the same time as Horizon Zero Dawn, which, by the way, has no one played Horizon Zero Dawn yet?
That's
own
another
it.
one I want to play.
Masterpiece.
But haven't played it yet.
I can't believe you didn't mention that game.
No, it was my number one last year, or my number two last year.
Oh, I love that game.
Jocelyn's upset that I didn't mention that game this time around.
I've looked at it every time I go into the mall. I'll walk in the game store and see if there's a used copy for lower than $40. I just don't want to spend $40 on it.
I got it for $12.
Steven got the full, the downloadable version. He got for
11 or 12. I don't remember. Yeah,
Just
they
buy
had
it digitally on a sale.
It's a good
there's a sale right now. Game
Yeah,
In
look on the PS.
might be. You might be able to download it for real cheap. Just check it
Yeah,
out.
but you have to have a PlayStation account to do that, and then you have to pay for that.
No, you don't.
No.
Not to
You
download
can
games.
go to the store and buy whatever you want if you have a PlayStation Plus membership. You might save. You might have to pay a couple of extra dollars because PlayStation Plus members get a slight.
Yeah, the complete edition. It's for sale right now for under $14.
Yeah, there you go.
Really?
There
So
you
if
go.
you were a PlayStation Plus subscriber, Reagan, you could get it for like 11 or something, or 11.40. It's not that big a difference. It's not worth buying a PlayStation Plus membership. It's not an online game either.
I thought
But
you
anyway-
had to pay monthly to even get onto PlayStation's network.
No,
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 because they
not-
want you to
not to
download
download
games. They want you to pay them
only
to
if you're
download
playing,
games.
only if you're playing multiplayer.
Yeah, only if you're going to play multiplayer online, or if you want to take advantage of their free monthly games. But
Okay, gotcha.
Man, I might buy that. That's a great deal.
I'm gonna buy it. If it's
Yeah,
15 bucks,
you
I'll get
totally should. All of you. It's so good. But anyway, yeah, that was one thing that I thought compare disfavorably to Horizon was I didn't like how the weapons broke all the time. But that again, I understand why they did that too, because they want you to try new weapons and not just have the same weapon. And at first that kind of bugged me. And you can get a weapon that will last for the rest of the game at some point in the game that will never break. But I honestly forgot about that mechanic because everything else in the game I love so much, and by the time I finished that game, I didn't mind that mechanic, and it was kind of fun. That I didn't even remember that had once bothered me. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Lauren, because that once really bothered me about that game too. But yeah, if you stick with it, then that will just become like a speck of dust compared to how awesome the rest of that game is, in my opinion.
Cool.
He's right, Lauren. This would have been on my list had I finished it, but I intentionally haven't finished that game because I'll pick it up every month and play for like a few hours, maybe, or for a couple of days I'll play it and then I'll put it back because I enjoy that game so much that I don't want it to end. So I'm like just taking it in piecemeal. It's so enjoyable, and the whole degrading mechanic, you'll come to respect it. They really are introducing a new component to. Well, the whole game is completely different from any other Zelda game, but
Yeah.
But that game's going to be on my list next year for sure if I finish it by then. But
See, that's my problem is Zelda's a little overwhelming for me because it's so massive and it's not super easy to quick travel at first. And so every time I sit down to play it, I just feel like I have 15 minutes to play here. I'm not going to make any progress. I don't even remember where I left off. It's so big.
You can quick travel right at the beginning of the game.
But only to the shrines you find, right?
Right.
Every shrine.
So you still have to find the shrines.
Yeah.
The brilliant thing about that game is I have spent probably half of the time of the hours I've put into it have not been like doing quests or moving the storyline on. It's just exploring. Like, it is such a joy to explore that world and just encounter unusual and new themes. I have had so many experiences in that game where I come across something that is completely irrelevant to the story, but still just put in there just for your enjoyment. And they're all over the map. Just so many little things.
Like there was one time when I came across a guy who says, "Hey, do you want to play a round of golf?" He's this giant who's trying to knock a boulder into a hole, and you can earn like a heart piece or something if you're able to do it successfully. But it's just there's a million things like that.
Yeah, it really is like 1,000 games in one game, and that's incredible to me. I think too.
Nintendo's version of a Rockstar game.
Yeah.
Well, they
it's Skyrim for kids, right?
From Skyrim on this game, just the open worldness of it, and.
Well, I was gonna say, don't you feel like there's just so much you can do. It's almost the opposite of the Uncharted games. They're so linear that there's nothing you can do except what they want you to.
Yeah.
In Zelda, one of the joys of a good game is when you're like, hey, I should try this, and then it works.
Right.
And Zelda's full of that, right? There's so many things you can mess around with, and it functions. It doesn't break the game,
right? Which
is insane that they made that kind of polish. But again, it's a little overwhelming to me. There's so much.
Well, but honestly, even reaching back, like Link to the Past for Super Nintendo was kind of that way. It's like I'm dinking around in the mountains forever and I can't go anywhere and I'm not supposed to be here yet because I don't have the item to unlock it.
But
like,
you could go there.
There is so much to do, but like you don't need that gauntlet to progress to that next level necessarily. That was one thing. I haven't finished that game, so I didn't add it on my list either, but I have played that a fair amount this year and have really enjoyed Zelda.
I have to complain about the food, though, Robert. You saying it is enjoyable is completely opposite of how I feel. That's the one thing in that game that just drives me crazy. I think it's fun to mix ingredients for about maybe 30 seconds, but once you've created a freaking recipe, it should let you replicate that recipe as many times as you want. Go to your menu and be like, give me as many as I can afford with the...
Yeah, don't have to remember
agree. I would
it.
like a quick cook.
Yeah, you put 5 items in your hand and you have to exit the menu. You drop them in the pan, you cook them, you do it again. It's just so tedious.
So here's a question. Did you guys play it on Switch or on Wii U? Because I think another reason why...
Switch.
Yeah, I think I would have an easier time with it on Switch because I could play it at night before bed or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, that's what I loved. I loved just having the Switch and just laying in bed. My wife's watching a TV show.
See, that
Yeah,
might
for
actually
sure.
help me finish that game because I playing it on the Wii U, I barely ever get a chance.
You can
know?
borrow my version, Lauren, if you want to start over, because obviously you can't.
I mean, I haven't
transfer
gotten
your
that
save from
far,
the
so
Wii U.
might be worth
Full,
it.
Yeah.
full year,
I was planning to lend you Mario Odyssey, Lauren, so I'll lend you both of those at the same time.
Stop rocking.
full disclosure, Lauren, I put a fair amount of hours in on the John. That's the nice thing about the Switch.
Okay, I'll admit that really is a great feature of the Switch. I have only played the Switch for 1 day now, and I've already used it on the John. It really is a great feature. It's incredible. Also, sanitize your Switch.
Right.
Before docking. Gross.
Steven, is that a Rocket League ball behind you?
Yeah, this.
Did you also see
where
his
did you get that?
Borderlands chest? He has a Borderlands
Yeah, I
chest.
saw
Loot
that.
crate.
I've been wanting to get
Borderlands
one of
is
those.
awesome.
It has a Rocket League card in it.
Oh, the Merc. That's so cool. I need to get me one of those for 5 or 10.
Yeah, my
Oh
boy,
yeah, Josh got me one of those too. I
my
forgot.
game shrine has grown since last year. This is my Borderlands chest.
Do
It
you,
lights up when it's
do you
red when
press
it's empty, and it's green when it's closed, full.
do you press
know?
E
Nice.
to get the stuff
But I
out
keep
of
all
it?
my controllers in it, like all of my Steam, Xbox,
That's awesome.
whatever, PlayStation. And then I got my D&D. I got my. This is my favorite cartoon
Nice.
ever.
Oh
Iron
yeah,
Giant.
the Iron Giant. Is that a BB-8 over there too?
Did you
Oh,
like
yeah.
Ready Player? Speaking of the Iron Giant, did you like Ready Player One?
It had a lot of potential.
I did. I liked it a lot, actually. That's my magnet board of Mario level stuff.
It's awesome.
Got it as a white elf.
Well, awesome. Good choice.
All right, Stephen G, you're number one.
My number one, you guys have already heard me talk about it a lot at game night. Usually when I'm hopping on, I'm just hopping off that game, and it's Spider-Man for PS4. And that game is so fun. Everything, not only is playing. Reagan, have you played the Batman games, right? Like Batman Arkham, or those ones? Have you not?
Or
Yeah,
Shadow
I
of
have.
War. Shadow of War.
Oh, by the way, the Asylum, City, Origins, and Blackgate are all on sale for $10 right now.
Total.
For the package.
For those 4 and their 4 DLCs.
I already
Nice,
own all of
nice.
them. Otherwise, I'd get them.
I know. $10 on Fanatical.
One of the best things about the Batman games is the fighting, in my opinion. Once you get it down, it's just so enjoyable. It's the same thing with the with Shadow of Mordor and stuff. But
Yeah.
the Spider-Man game is, and that's another reason I liked Mad Max, the video game, as well. Is the fighting was a big part of it. But the fighting is really, really, really fun. You do feel just the same way you feel like Batman in the Batman games. You feel like Spider-Man, and that's a difficult thing to accomplish, and they've nailed it. And his humor in it is so good. The humor in it is just top notch. I haven't even experienced all of what they throw at you, and just the little things like there's a Twitter feed going the entire time you're playing that these little comments pop up. I've never even read those, but every once in a while I'll go back and read a bunch that have been posted to like Spider-Man's official Twitter account or whatever.
Yeah, that's
And
fun.
and then you listen to this radio show with James Jameson. What's the
J. Jonah
J.
Jameson.
Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. So he's always, complaining about Spider-Man and the problems he's causing in the city, and it's hilarious.
He's a menace.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So the humor and the just the feel of the game, and also it's
Beautiful.
really well put together, and the story is really good. They did an awesome job on the story, and did a really good job of encompassing or incorporating Miles Morales in it as well, and kind of setting
cool.
him up for maybe a future Spider-Man game. But yeah, it's good. That game was easily my top game this year.
Awesome. Like I said, I downloaded it today.
On Sunday.
What's that, Reagan?
Like I said, someone's lending me that game on Sunday. So
Sweet.
I bought the DLC, and that's the third one just barely unlocked 4 days ago. But I've beat the first 2, and I've done everything in those games, everything you can do, because it's just super enjoyable.
Yes, it's on sale right now as well on the PlayStation. I went to Walmart. I was going to buy it for $60, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to check the PlayStation store real quick. I got the entire game with all the DLC for $50 on the PlayStation, but you can buy just the base game for like $40, I think, right now. But
Cool.
I saw Spider-Verse, which I would not have seen. Somebody that I work with, one of our volunteers, is just obsessed with Spider-Man. He's the person who's going to lend me the game, and he told me that Into the Spider-Verse was going to be really, really awesome. And I'm like, I just thought it would be like another one of those
Oh, it was so
cartoons
good.
that they make about, like there's like 100 Batmans and tons of. I just thought it'd be another one of those anyway, and it's not.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about that.
Yeah, we went and saw
It
that
was
over the
incredible.
weekend. It was the best superhero movie in the last decade. I feel like it was
It's
so
the best
good.
Spider-Man movie. for
People
sure.
say that blows me away because I've seen some amazing superhero movies, and Spider-Man: Homecoming is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's probably in
movie-
my top 10 or top 15 movies. And then people say like, "Oh, this is way better than Spider-Man: Homecoming." Really?
This movie
That-
convinces you that superhero movies should be animated. That's how I feel after seeing this movie.
If they were animated like this, yes.
Yeah. Like, it did an incredible job of making the comic book come to life. And characters
Mhm.
like Kingpin are bigger than life in it, and it makes it amazing. You can't even in
I-
the Spider-Man game, they feel like humans. It feels like a film as opposed to like live action. And this movie, it's so creative and beautiful, and I
And hilarious.
immediately want to see that game again, or that movie again. It was so good.
I'm excited to see it. I want to take my daughter, one of my daughters, and my son.
My kids see a lot of kids' movies, and after we saw that one, they were like, "Oh, that makes some of these other movies we've been seeing seem really not great." Like, they realize this is a top-notch movie, This is
I
really
heard there's a
good.
weird thing they did with the comic book. Like, isn't it? There's fewer frames per second than your
Uh-huh.
typical.
It's got
they,
a comic
cut
book
it in
feeling.
half, right, or something.
And there are
weird.
literally like comic book quotations and stuff pop up above their heads at times and things. It's really creative.
And
I
you
love
see
it.
like the pixelation, kind of like an old comic book.
Yeah, it feels like
It's,
the
like, always
dots,
there a
like the
little bit.
print dots or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just unlocked. I've been running around in the Spider-Verse Spider-Man costume in the Spider-Man game.
Oh, cool.
The second DLC. It was just a costume I unlocked. So
Definitely see that movie if you can, just to support the idea that they made it, because
Do they have out there? Do you guys have? They just put a new theater out here that is the new DLP theaters.
Mhm.
Did they have one of the? I'm sure they do. Utah has better theaters for everything than out here, but do they have one out there?
LP.
I mean, they have
Dolby
the
Atmos
digital
theater,
projectors.
the new screen,
Oh, yeah, we've got Dolby Atmos. Yeah.
and then where they do like the advertisement for how great the new screen is and the deepest
Mhm.
black. They're blacker than black.
They may have that
Cinemark has
technology. That's a good question.
XD, which is pretty cool.
That's my favorite thing is all the theaters have to compete with each other, so they're all getting like reclining leather seats, which is
Mhm.
really nice.
Same price, reclining leather seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every seat, not just like a special row. It's great.
All right, I think that brings us to Stephen Loper. You're number one.
All right, here we go. So I think some of you may guess what this is as well.
What was the best game of 2013?
Best game of 2011. Best game of 2011. Okay, so here's the thing. I have been trying to play this game for years now.
Yep. We've been trying to convince you.
You've been trying to convince me for years, and I beat Dark Souls back in like January of this year. And I hate to list this the top amongst these games with you guys because you've been talking about these forever and I've been resisting it. And I'm glad you're all here that you can hear me say you guys were right all along. This is absolutely one of the best games of all time, and I was an idiot to fight you. And I'm sorry. I was playing Dishonored while I was finishing up this game, and I shelved Dishonored for like a month to finish this once I got the bug.
So what was
Like,
the
I-
moment that made you get the bug?
I don't know. It's interesting because I played this in chunks. I played it at different times, but I think that when I started playing and just couldn't stop was when I got the Lord Vessel
Yeah.
and I could teleport. that was really meaningful to me playing the game, because I was like, okay, now I can actually go collect items, and it's not going to take me a half an hour to run back
Right.
to the undead merchant in that sewer that has all the homeward bones.
Right.
You know? And I don't know exactly when it was, but I'll tell you, these are all things that you guys already know. But like, I'm not going to walk away from the fact that the plot
Yeah.
it's interesting, and the plot is thin. It's more than Super Mario. You know, it's not Save the Princess in the Castle, but it is pretty paper thin that you're the chosen undead, and you're tasked with becoming, the successor. But the lore, the intrigue, the characterization, the emotional involvement is just incredible. Where the items are located have a story behind them. Like, you find this item here because look around you. Look at the enemies. Look at what happened.
Right.
That corpse that the item was found on, that guy had a name. That guy had a purpose, and he existed, and you found this item on him because ... And like, oh my gosh, that stuff. You guys were talking about loading screens with God of War. This game had 3 that I know of: the Asylum, the Painted World, and Anor Londo / Fortress. Right?
Yeah. Like cinematics, you mean?
No, like transitions between levels.
Yeah, where you
Oh,
get carried
yeah,
by the
yeah.
gargoyles.
Right.
You get carried by the gargoyles from the fortress to Anor Londo. You go through the painting, or you come back out of the painting,
Right.
and then you get carried by the crow in and out of the asylum. But that's it.
That's right.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
otherwise-
basically one giant map.
It is. You can make a clean run all the way from Firelink down through the catacombs, or up through Lower Undeadburg, through the depths, Blighttown, Demon Ruins, Izalith, up through the parish, Darkmoon Garden, the basin. Like, I want to see a Minecraft server that
Where they
has this
rebuild it
built
all.
out, and you can go in creative mode and just like fly through the whole map or
So-
something.
I love what you mentioned about how once you get the Lord Vessel, you don't have to run for a half hour from one place to another. But what's amazing is by the time you get the Lord Vessel, you've earned it, and the reward
Oh,
of
yeah.
getting it is so incredible. But I remember, and I can still do this, I can think in my mind how everything connects to everything else. I can run through the game in my mind, which is amazing
Yeah.
that they managed to do that. Not many games can do that. That's why Dark Souls 2 was such a disappointment, because nothing is really connected.
Yeah.
But like, even when I didn't get it, I couldn't stop thinking about the game. Even when I thought I wouldn't be one of those people that finished it, even when I had convinced myself to stop because it, quote unquote, wasn't fun. Like,
Right.
it wasn't fun. It was a lot of work.
Right.
But like most things you work at, you get some skill, and then work becomes fun when you get better at the thing that you do. It still can be frustrating, but you get over that. And Gwyn was really hard for me because I wasn't good at parrying. I didn't work on that at all.
Hmm.
And I had him down to just a sliver after days of trying to kill him in different ways, and I was about to throw my controller just to say that I had done that once, because everyone else has.
Yep.
I still didn't, but I was like, I was frustrated. I'm like, gosh, I can't kill this guy. But then I realized, yes, I can. You just have to be better. You just have to do the exact same thing that you did and just be that much better, because he murdered me with, 10 HP, basically.
Ugh.
And it was like, all I had to do was hit him once. Fart in his general direction and he would have died, right? And I was so mad, but I was like, totally, I can do this. And I went down there and I parried him 3 times in a row. Parry, riposte. He came back. Parry, riposte. Parry, riposte. And I had already swigged the last Estus when he recovered. And I got him back to that exact sliver. And I was like panicking. I'm like, I'm going to choke. I'm going to choke. And then I got around a pillar and he jumped away. And so I was like, all right, Estus, full health. He jumped in. I rolled right into it and stabbed him. And I was like, oh my gosh. I woke up a full week later. And I actually woke up from a dead sleep saying to myself in my mind, how am I going to beat? Oh yeah, that's right. I finished the game. Go back to
Dude.
sleep. And I like oh my gosh. And then I thought I bought the remaster like everyone talked about. And I thought, well, I'll play this a little bit, but I'm trying to wait for these guys. So I'll roll a different character and I'll just play around with this just so that I'm still up on my Souls skills, right? And I thought, I haven't really been able to dive into the remaster. I looked back at my Steam list for playtime. I'm not a Souls fanboy, but this remaster ranked 15th on my most played list, and the original game is 8th.
Wow.
If I put them together, it's number 4 in my most played games.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a FromSoft guy, but I've played Dark Souls more than the BioShock trilogy combined, and I love those games. I've played this more than Civ 5, and that game is such a time drain. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, this game is
Now,
so great. And
are you gonna play Dark Souls 2 and 3, or have you started, or what's your plan for those?
So let me tell you, Dark Souls 2 was like number 6 on my list or something.
Oh.
Because there were just so many other great games that I played this year. Oh, sorry, it was 8th. But I mean, it was behind The Last of Us, because of course it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was behind The Last of Us, and it was behind Dark Souls 1, and it was behind Super Mario Odyssey and Dishonored. And I put it back a little further just because a lot of the things that were special about the first one really were missing in Dark Souls 2, and I felt it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun playing Dark Souls 2. I didn't play it single player. I played it exclusively with my 2 nephews. And so we were running a 3-person co-op the whole map, the whole game. So I didn't really get to explore it. It was a different experience for me. I liked playing the co-op, but I didn't fight and struggle with Dark Souls 2 like I had with Dark Souls 1. So I think that maybe ended up playing in a disadvantage because I didn't have to fight for it nearly as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a Souls game is a game you want to get deep and dark and dirty and all alone and sad and feel like the world is
Yeah.
miles away. That's what I want to feel when I play those games.
It's true.
Despair.
And this is actually partially why I felt Dark Souls 3 was a little bit weaker, is because so many people were in love with Dark Souls at that point that it was impossible not to co-op that game, I felt like. Like, I just...
You can.
I
just
mean,
run it hollow.
I know, but you see a summon sign, it's like, all right, let's do this. I don't know, like, Dark Souls 3 was
That's why
fun,
Dark
but...
Souls 1 was so lonely for me, because I was afraid to be invaded, so I never went human. I played hollow, like, all the time. And so I didn't want to be invaded, but I never got help. But like Reagan said, it was dark and dank, and that's what kind of made me run it. That's actually why, like, embracing the darkness made the Four Kings one of the easiest bosses for me, which was one of the harder bosses for a lot of people.
Oh, I hate that boss.
But at that point, I had studied a lot, and they said, the trick to Four Kings is just make sure you kill each one before the next one spawns.
Right.
And just hug them like crazy. And I had the Black Knight Greatsword, and it just really buffed my strength at that point. And so I could kill each king with about 3 swipes of my sword.
Oh, wow.
There was actually a moment in the Four Kings fight when I had to, I think it was the 3rd king, I had to wait like 5 or 10 seconds for him to spawn.
Oh, wow.
Because I killed the 2nd guy so fast that I'm like, uh-oh, did I bug it? Like, I broke the boss. And I was worried that I, like, screwed up. And then he spawned, and I was like, oh, okay. Run back over to him and kill him the same way. But it was funny because I was like, oh, wow, like, I'm wrecking these guys. And, yeah, it was super satisfying. So they are weak to strength builds as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the story being sort of, whatever. You kind of have to kind of search for the story to
Oh
find
no, I watched what was his name?
it. Vati Vidya.
Body video.
Yes.
It
I watched all
improves it
those
a lot.
videos.
But I have to tell you, the
Loved them.
DLC
Loved
does the DLC does a really good job of kind of closing
No, I'm
a
not
lot
saying
of
the
the
story.
storylines.
No, the story and the lore are deep. I'm saying the plot.
Yeah, that's I guess
And I
that's,
mean in the strictest sense of what plot is.
right.
The characters, the lore, the emotional connection that I had. Like, I went to great lengths. You guys, great lengths to get Solaire live.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't where he was supposed to be, I thought. And I ran back through the entire world looking for Solaire. Because I was like, I know you're gonna die, and I don't want you to.
Yeah.
I've lost everybody else. In fact, at the end, I wanted Iron Flesh, the pyromancy, because I had done a pyromancy secondary, because everybody does, and I wanted Iron Flesh to help with Gwyn, because I was going to go in full Havels
Right.
and just let Gwyn hit me and just poise. Like I was going to poise up so much that he couldn't break my poise. I was just going to stand there and just hack at him with my greatsword. But I needed Iron Flesh to go with the Havels. And so I went back to my guy in Firelink, and he was gone. And I was like, oh, that's right. I told him to go find Quilena, or whatever her name is, in Isolate, in Blighttown, and he ends up dying. And I was like, oh, I can't get him back. I can't get this spell. I have to learn how to parry. I had to like strategy.
I tried the Iron Flesh, whatever it's called. I tried that whole thing and it just did not work for me. I had to learn to parry. It was the only way I could kill Gwyn. Now
Yeah.
I can just sidestep and avoid him and kill him, like it's nothing.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. I'm not surprised.
I beat him. I just got out of the way, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the trick is I was
So
going in
fast.
all armored and like fat rolling, and I realized he's actually easier to kill if your character's naked. I think.
That's true.
And that was my first
Yeah.
experience. I never parried ever in the first time I played through that game. And Gwyn, I beat him by rolling out of the way, but it took me 50 tries.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you, Stephen, that you haven't played the DLC. I think we really should try to co-op together, and
Yeah,
you should
I
experience
think
the
that'd be
DLC
fun.
because
DLC is
it
really
really is. I mean, if Dark Souls is the perfect game, then the DLC is the perfect DLC. It's just
You know what?
maybe Bloodborne's is better.
Dark Souls DLC.
You haven't? You should
Yes,
get the
no.
remaster and play it with all of us.
I played it on Bloodborne, right?
The
Did I play
Bloodborne DLC is probably 10 out of 10 for me. It's the best.
Actually, I don't even think I played that.
The
Oh
old,
man,
the old
done some
hunters.
great
The
video
old
game-
hunters.
Yeah.
So
The old hunters. Oh man.
Stephen, everything you loved about Dark Souls, I think Bloodborne just perfected, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bloodborne is. It took me a long time to finally admit it, but it's my favorite Souls game.
Yeah.
It was hard. It dethroned Demon Souls, and Demon Souls was my first Souls games. For most of you, it was Dark Souls. So Dark Souls is your, best
Love.
experience. But yeah, for me, but Bloodborne has replaced Demon Souls. It took a while for me to finally.
I could agree that
Admit.
Bloodborne's the best.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
so
freaking
good. It's just so perfect in just about every fashion.
I agree. I have
And
to
I
say,
really want to come out part 2.
something that helps me appreciate Dark Souls 2 more is that when I don't compare it to Dark Souls. Because Dark Souls 2 is a great game by itself. It really is. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it does not match up. And I feel like Dark Souls 3 is a lot closer to Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne. So I hope that you'll play Dark Souls 3 this year. Or
Dark
next
Souls 3
year.
is so phenomenal. It's so
It
good.
really is good. Dark Souls 2 is the weakest of those games, but it's still
Although,
excellent.
in my opinion, I think I enjoyed Dark Souls 2 more than Dark Souls 1. Honestly.
Really?
Yeah. But
Didn't we co-op a lot,
Steven,
too?
played Demon Souls first, and so I was a bigger fan of Demon Souls than both of them. But
Hmm.
I felt like Dark Souls 2 was more enjoyable.
Hmm.
When all was put together, but I know that's not a popular opinion.
Well, Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016, so
It
I'll
did?
play that in about 3 years. Just
I
kidding.
mean-
I don't think I'll be able to wait that long.
So I was gonna ask, Dark Souls 2. Did you play the regular version or the Scholar of the First Sin?
Scholar
of the First Sin.
Yeah, that definitely
Yeah.
improved it for me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it on Robert's Steam account. I actually don't own it.
So here's the question. That's everyone's number one, right?
Yeah,
I have a
that's
question.
it.
So next year we do best games of the decade.
Hey,
that
that's
would be-
not a bad idea.
That'd be fun.
That would be,
That'll actually help me get 10. But we're just gonna all talk about Dark Souls.
Maybe
I
we
was
do
gonna say
two
it's just gonna be a
podcasts.
rehash
Best
of a couple
of
years
year,
ago.
and then a month later we do best of the decade.
Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2. You're just gonna name all.
I
of
know.
Yeah.
Every one of these discussions devolves into a discussion about Dark Souls. I thought this would be the year where we didn't have that discussion, and I ended up bumping it up onto my number 5, but I tried to minimize it as
Well,
much as possible.
I was excited for it not to be part of it, but for me to be the new inclusion, to be able to.
That is
Like,
exciting.
finally share
I'm
my
excited
thoughts.
for you. It's so
It's just funny, and I love talking Souls. I could do it all day, but
It's
it's
true.
just funny that I thought, hey, maybe this year there will be nobody who will mention Souls.
It's impossible. Well, you know they're gonna make Dark Souls 4 eventually. It may not be the Miyazaki, but they're gonna do it.
I
hope
want
they
Bloodborne
don't.
2. That's what I want. Bloodborne 2.
Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, Bloodborne 2 is next.
They
Probably.
claim they're not working on it though, or at least he isn't.
Yeah, but that's more likely than the next Dark Souls,
I hope
I
so.
I
agree.
think so. Yeah.
based on the comments.
They'll
they
make
did.
Dark Souls 4. It'll be like a It'll be like how Dark Souls 3 brought back the first one.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 4 will bring back the second one.
I really hope Blue Point. They just did a remaster of I forget the name of the Odyssey game, whatever it's called. Shadow of the Colossus. No, Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, yeah.
They did the remaster. They're working on a top secret remaster that they said is going to be really great, and I really hope it's Demon Souls.
I did too.
It's like-
I've been wanting to play that one. I haven't had a chance to play
I
it.
know you've never played it, Steve Lopers. Have you? You've played Demon Souls, right, Reagan?
Yes. I didn't beat it though.
But anyway, that would be such a great game to remaster. I'd love to play that again.
I would
I
like that.
totally. Oh, the people that got so excited about it when there was that fake leak online several years ago about Demon Souls remaster, but it was not to be. Of course, if they do it like they did the Dark Souls remaster, then forget it. I don't want to play it.
Honestly, for me, it would just be worth it because I can play it.
Yeah.
I'd rather have From Software than even a Dark Souls 4 would do the same gameplay but in a different genre, like what they did for Bloodborne, like a reboot, similar gameplay, maybe a few tweaks, but a totally different aesthetic.
That's the thing that keeps standing out in my mind with Bloodborne is just the, what do you even call that? Like the Victorian monster
Lovecraftian.
Lovecraftian.
Yes.
That's what it
It
is.
made me fall in love with Lovecraft, and I realized that
So good.
Lovecraftian is my favorite kind of story.
It's awesome. Have you read
So
any of the
awesome.
books?
No.
You
But I
should.
just-
They're like free online. They're super short. A lot of them.
I've heard
But
good
I've studied
things.
enough of it to like understand. Like I get his themes, you know what I mean? And like it's like its own thing now
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's become. And what they did with Bloodborne definitely made me a fan.
Agreed.
So speaking of games, this is a plug for Lovecraft. Is play if you can get your hands on a copy of Arkham Horror. It's a Lovecraft board game. Super
Oh,
fun.
I played that with Robert, I think. Haven't we played that, Robert?
Yeah. Although, did we ever finish it? We made it.
I don't know.
It takes like 5 hours to play,
It's a long game.
but we did at least try it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Well, good job, everybody.
Well, good review.
We're coming up on 3 hours here of me recording, so
That's
We'll
our
call it a
standard
wrap.
time,
stuck to
right?
our tradition.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that was
Awesome.
fun.
Everyone play lots of games
hey,
next year.
Steve, can you text the top games?
Yeah, he did already.
Already did.
Oh, you
Yes.
did. Great. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that was very
I didn't even
helpful.
know. Thanks, man.
Thank you guys. We had a great time, and yeah, let's play Dark Souls Remastered together this year.
Sounds like a
Part with
plan.
Rocket League for a few game nights, Lauren. That's
I
the
don't
real
know,
question.
man. I got to get that champ rank. Once I get champ rank, maybe I'll stop
Hey, you
playing.
won't be doing it with us. That's
I've
the
gotta
bottom
get-
line.
I've got about 1,500 hours now in the game. I need about 1,500 more, and then I think I'll be done.
See, and that's fine. He can keep playing Rocket League. It's just what does he play on Tuesday nights?
That's true.
question.
That's true. I would be okay. My only concern now is we've got all these other people who play on Tuesday with us. Like, well, when I say
Yeah.
lots, there's Matt and Stealth, right? They like to play.
Madden Stealth, yeah.
I want to
But they'll
continue
keep
playing with
playing
them.
without us. It's not like they're gonna go away or something.
That's true. I just need a
Like,
Christmas. I need a Christmas break. What's that?
Taking off, Reagan?
Thanks, Reagan. See ya.
Okay, see you, man.
So long,
Yeah.
everybody.
All
Send
right. Well,
Well, just stop recording. We can keep chatting.
that's true. See ya, everybody who doesn't watch this.